Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this episode of Heresy Hammer. It's myself, Rob, and we have John with us today as well. And we are going to be talking all things Blood Angels on this very early August morning. It's in fact, we're recording at 7 o'clock in the morning, which is something we don't usually do, but we've got busy
Mhm.
days ahead of us. So I think one of us is going to the dentist. Are you going to the dentist, John? Is that right? I think it's a dentist visit for you.
Correct. Dentist and
Very,
um,
very adult
just
of you.
just life admin. To be honest with you. It's a life admin day today, coupled with the biggest life admin there is, which is recording Heresy
Yeah,
Hammer.
absolutely. So we're going to be talking all things Blood Angels. This is a much requested one. And then at the end of the video, we're also going to go through a list as well. But perhaps we can talk through potential other lists that we might have floating around because I've
Why
got
do you
a
think it's so requested, Rob? Is it because the plannings are a popular legion? Do you think people find them hard work? Do you think
yeah. I think
kind
that
of
my initial thoughts before doing this episode is that the Blood Angels, I think, are I don't think you're boxed in as I don't think that's right, but I think they play best in a certain way. I think you can build other kinds of lists with Blood Angels, but they certainly play best in a particular way. And with Sanguinius, they play best certainly in that particular way. So I wonder if it's because Blood Angels players perhaps want some new and fresh ideas for lists, rather than just taking. Because often when I see Blood Angels lists, they are pretty similar to one another. It's very rare that I would see a Blood Angels list that would be super original. In terms of it's usually got quite a big deep striking element, and that deep striking element usually includes Sanguinius, the Primarchs are allowed, 10 Dawnbringers, Breakers, whatever they're called, the one of their dreads that can deep strike, and then a squad of Angels Tears, right? Like you before you even play, I think you can probably predict what is going to be in the list. So maybe some originality, but they are popular because um, they're
iconic,
the
right?
ultimate. Yeah, they're the ultimate good guys. And Sanguinius, I don't think we're ever going to get him back in 40k, but I think that he really does epitomize everything good about the Imperium as far as it can be described as good. Um, and he's just like a mythic figure, isn't he? I think like of all the Primarchs, he's the most mythical, probably because of his ethereal angels type nature. But um, yeah, I think the for me the coolness of the Legion, like what I like about it, probably just hinges around the whole Sanguinius thing. I think.
He's really, I think he's really, really well written. In fact, I think the Blood Angels as a whole in the books are really, really well written. But they're
Yeah,
also, I think, when we kind of look way back beyond, like beyond the start of the Heresy being the Heresy, when it was just the story and those kind of few kind of snippets that we had in various other kind of codices and kind of other source books, like saying like the fact that Horus slays Sanguinius was
yeah,
always such an iconic piece of kind of lore.
yeah,
I think when we look back on kind of the kind of perceived glory days of second edition 40k, which is now I know when kind of a fair few viewers would have got into it. Like the Blood Angels were the kind of the Angels of Death. They were kind of one of those sort of big
mm,
four legions. I would have said with sort of the Dark Angels, the Space Wolves, and the Ultramarines that really kind of stick into people's minds. I think people really like the idea of sort of finally being able to kind of recreate them in their kind of grandest form. So
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, cool, cool, cool. Well, before we go any further, let's just say thank you to our sponsors. So first up, we've got Battle Bling. So you can go visit them at their store at battleblingstore.co.uk. Make sure you give them a follow on Instagram as well. Johnny does an update every Wednesday about what's been going on, what the news there are, what events there are. So make sure you check those guys out particularly for all your Adeptus Titanicus Legions Imperialis needs, because they've got some absolutely great stuff. And if you type in the code Heresy Hammer, you'll get 10% off as well. Next up, we have Bits Monster. I was only looking at Bits Monster only yesterday. I'm waiting for the Mechanicum box to be kind of like split apart and put on there because I want free shipping for over £25, and then I can use the code Hammer for 10% off as well because I intend to buy some Phalax from those guys pretty soon. So you can get all your sprues, all your bits on over at bitsmonster.com. So make sure you go check those guys out. And we've also got Beowulf Miniature Printing. Lovely guys over at Beowulf. They've just had a modernization of their office space. So they're kind of like one of those fancy shed offices in the back of their garden. So I assume they're kind of like having a bit of an expansion at the moment, which is exciting to see. So if you want to go check them out, beowulfminiatures.com is the website, but also you can go to Beowulf_miniature_printing and you can go see what is going on with their kind of like their upgrades. Of their kind of like the way they go about printing things, because it was rather fascinating how many printers those guys have as well. Cool. Right, I think we're going to get straight into it. So, Blood Angels review. So, I think the other
get into this. People want to see the news and all of the #Heresy hammers and all of the other bits and bobs. They can check out the community show that Lee and I did. In fact, there were a couple of Blood Angels related, especially Day of Revelation related questions. So we sort of preempted this episode by discussing myself and Lee about some of the lists in there as well. So if you want to see all the kind of news and catch up on everything that's been going on with gossip and bits and bobs, you can just look back on the previous episode, which will be our August community show, and everything's tucked up in there.
Perfect. So Blood Angels, the other thing I would say that we missed off our initial conversation is that they are pretty much a close combat legion, although they do have access to some very good close combat, close range shooting. But they are a close combat legion. So that will take us nicely to the legion rule, because that is all about close combat. So in Carmine Fury, all models with the Blood Angel special rule require one lower result to wound than they would normally, to a minimum of 2 up. So if you would usually need a 6 to wound, that would be a 5 to wound. If you needed a 3, it becomes a 2, which is very, very valuable if you are going against particularly tough units. So, for example, Castellax, or Contemptors, that is going to be mega useful. However, it's only on any turn in which they are part of a successful charge against an enemy unit, even if that charge is counted as disordered. So it's got to be a successful charge range. So see on the first round of combat. And they also get it if they are disordered. This effect applies regardless of the weapon that they are using. And it just gives kind of an example there.
Bearing in mind that this doesn't mean it's not +1 strength, which often people are confused with. So it doesn't affect things like instant death thresholds, but actually it's better situation.
I think it's slightly better in situations where it's something along the lines of you're going against toughness 7, because a chainsword would, even if it's +1 strength, for example, it would still need a 6 to wound, whereas a chainsword will just need a 5 or a 6 to wound. So I think it's probably in certain situations it's probably slightly better, but I'm sure people will tell us, well, if you've got a strength 7 weapon, it's better to have +1 strength because because of instant death. So I think it swings and roundabouts. Over to the vehicles though. So in addition, any vehicle with the Legion Astartes Blood Angel special rule that make a ram attack increases the strength of any attack inflicted by +1 to a maximum of strength 10. That's not too shabby, especially when you think about like ramming with AV14. That becomes a strength 8 ram because it's half the strength, isn't it? So 7 + 1. So you're ramming at strength 8, which is actually pretty nice. And actually, ram attacks are pretty good. Not used too much by people, I find, but when it is used by people, it can be rather shocking and rather annoying. And you can move people around the board in ways that you don't want. So just having +1 extra strength to that is actually is pretty nice. Any thoughts on those on that one?
I think it's fantastic. Actually, I think you're absolutely right that people do not make a big enough deal about being rammed or ramming. Like even just a Rhino being able to kind of ram a unit and move it off an objective and doing it D6 strength 6 hits, which is really. people do not like being rammed by a Typhon, let me tell you.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Until the
yeah,
point where they get rammed by the Typhon and they're like,
yeah, yeah. Does it have something? Does like a Typhon have a funky
flushing the
rule?
bolt. So it's D6 plus 6, it's strength 10.
Whoa. A Blood Angels one presumably would be a strength 11.
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay,
I'm going to
that's
tell
really
you, no, do you know what? I'm going to assume that that's right up until the point where I reread the rules and see it's
okay. Yeah, let's just assume it's right. But
yeah,
regardless, I think having AV14, having just plus
yeah.
one strength, is actually mega useful. Yeah, that's great. Cool. Why don't you take us through Wrath of Angels, which is the Blood Angels advanced reaction.
So this can be used at once per battle during the opposing player's shooting phase. When an enemy unit declares a shooting attack, the target entirely composed of infantry units and the Blood Angel special rule. So bear in mind, it's only infantry, unlike some of the other advanced
Yeah, that
reactions.
is interesting. Yeah, it's also that is interesting actually.
Yeah. So all models in the unit targeted by the shooting attack that triggers the reaction gain the shrouded 5+ special rule against all wounds inflicted as part of the shooting attack that triggered this reaction. If the reacting unit already has the version of the shrouded rule, then this does not stack or increase that rule, and the reacting player may choose to use any one of the shrouded rules available to them. So, but once the shooting attack has been completely resolved, the reacting unit may have a charge declared for it, following all the normal rules for charging and targeting the enemy that made the shooting attack. The enemy unit may not make a reaction to this charge, and it's fully resolved immediately. And if the charge is successful, the units are locked in combat and fight in the assault phase as normal, with the charging unit benefiting from any charge bonuses, hammer of wrath, etc. If the charge fails, no search move is made.
Okay, so a couple of things to unpick there. So basically, but essentially, you are getting a shrouded, and then you get a charge in the shooting phase, which means that you don't have to eat up a potential Overwatch.
Yeah,
But because it's got a charge associated with it, you need to be quite close really to make the most of that.
yeah, you need to
Um,
be. But you do gain any charge bonuses, for instance, if you've got things like jump pack, etc., equipped as well.
okay, yeah, that's useful. Yeah,
So it is a
yeah,
charge move as per normal if you're a dreadnought, or have any other ways of being able to kind of buff your charge move. You've got to make sure obviously that you're going to be within 12. You can't make anything longer than a 12.
yeah,
But it's pretty nice. I think what it doesn't necessarily do is it doesn't help you if, like, for instance, if you're deep striking and you're being intercepted.
yeah, yeah.
But it certainly does in the assault phase. And don't get me wrong, this is going to make people think really carefully about who they want to shoot at and when, because they don't want to eat a charge. So again, if you've got kind of a
Yeah.
high number of threats and threat overload on the board, I think it's going to make people really wary about
Mm.
shooting, or alternatively, it's going to really catch people out.
Yeah, I think so. I think Shrouded is probably a little bit better, you know, against those things like dreadnoughts where you'll feel no pain wouldn't work, and you've got like a Leviathan dreadnought with a cyclonic melter lance. Like that's always going to be
Yeah,
massively,
etc.
yeah, massively useful. So yeah, okay, yeah, I think it's pretty good. It's one of those ones which is like the Walls one, the Imperial Fist one, is that it's an out of sequence charge, and it just means that you're not getting shot by you're not getting shot in the Overwatch, which is always nice. So you're not swallowing 2 rounds of shooting. The only thing I think you should be wary of is anything with night vision, because it will ignore your shrouded save. So
Yeah,
you
I
could,
think it's one
presumably
of
could
the.
still charge, but you wouldn't get the shrouded.
I think it's one of the better, to be honest with you, actually. I think it's
Yeah,
one of the better advanced reactions out there. If we
yeah,
kind of the fact that it's
yeah,
not just an out of sequence charge, but it is also a damage mitigation as well. I
yeah.
think it should not be a.
Underestimated. Yep. No, I think it's pretty good. Yeah, really, really tasty. Cool, cool, cool. Right, let's have a look at what we got next. I'm assuming it's a warlord traits. Yeah, perfect. Okie dokie. So we've got Incarmo Paladin, Paragon of Unity, and Thrall of the Red Fur. So one of them is traitor only, one of them can be used by either side, and then one of them is
The fact that
what
there's
are they saying?
a traitor only one is interesting, given that the kind of Blood
Wow.
Angels are the consummate good guys, as we've already discussed.
Mm,
So I think this is quite interesting, much like with the fists having a traitor reaction as well. I think this is.
yeah. Yeah, definitely two sides of a coin with the Blood
As
Angels.
well, but it seems to be much more common for the loyalist legions to have a traitor Warlord trait than it does for the trait
Just
allegiance
to
to have.
have a loyalist one, yeah. Alpha
Which,
Legion
considering
might be
that,
one of the only ones I can think of. Well,
yeah,
Alpha Legion, Sons of Horus, maybe I can't think of many more beyond
considering
that.
that there are significantly more numbers of traitor legions that have a loyalist element that kind of remain with the legion, I think this is very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Cool. Okay, so let's have a look. In Carmine Paladins, so a warlord with this trait gains the Fear 1 special rule when the enemy army has the traitor allegiance. That I think is just really nice. Like just have Fear 1 is great. You know, you would usually get that from a Legion Herald, for example, and there are some other units that give it, but I think that's really good, especially when you want to win a combat and try and chase people
Not
down.
even just that, like if you are, let's for instance, deep striking down with a big unit and you are looking to
Great
create
shout. Great
inning
shout.
up, then they're going to be, let's say for instance that you're deep
Yes.
striking and it's nighttime and
Yes.
you've got fear as well, then
Yes. It's
fear shout
minus potential -2, isn't it? To
minus
your
two.
leadership. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hard.
That's a really good point, actually. Yeah. Whenever a warlord with this trait is on the winning side of a combat in which the warlord was engaged, and that includes at least one enemy model with the traitor allegiance, he increases the value of his fear special rule by 1 point at the end of the assault phase in which the combat is won to a maximum of fear 4. My God, you basically feel like a Night Lord here, don't you? You got like this is fear 4. Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant, especially if you're winning those combats, right? Um, so it gives an example, but we don't need to go through it. But basically, if you just keep on winning your combats, combat after combat, your warlord will end up being Fear 4. You've got to win a lot of combats and move from one to another. But actually, that probably it's useful with an out of sequence charge as well, because you can do that in your opponent's face. So that's mega useful. And also, winning those combats, it just gives you consolidation. You can move and move and move and move. And you also get a additional reaction in the opposing player's assault phase, as long as the warlord has not been removed as a casualty. I think that's good, but I think for me, exactly as John says, I think that probably stacks best with some sort of deep strike assault, because you want to get the pinning off, hoping that Night Fight is still there. So yeah, but I think that could come in really handy if you're winning lots of combats. Do you want to take us through Paragon of Unity?
Yeah, I think this is really boring. There you go. So any friendly unit made up entirely of models with the Legion start his Blood Angel special rule that can draw a line of sight to all up with this trait to any model in a unit this warlord is joined, or to any model that's engaged in combat which this warlord is part of, gains a bonus of +1 to their leadership characteristic to a maximum of 10.
Yeah, it's not sexy, is it? Is what I would say, but it might be useful.
Yeah, it's useful, but I think in Carmine Paladin it's still the one for me. There you go. In addition, you gain an additional assault phase reaction as well.
Both interesting that it's both assault so far. Okay, so not a lot of flexibility on that. Interesting. Okay, so Thrall of the Red Thirst. So I think we could go into a lot about kind of like how the sordid side of the Blood Angels. Reading one of the 40k books, it's interesting that it was one of the Dante books that basically like they do poetry and art and sculpture to keep their like the red thirst and stuff at bay. But there is a malevolent and evil side to these blood angels, going around munching on space walls, for example. And then we also see it at the Siege of Terror when Sanguinius falls. Spoiler alert. So Thrall of the Red Thirst, if at the start of the controlling player's charge subphase, there are enemy units with at least one model within 12 inches of a warlord with this trait, or any model in a unit that has this warlord has joined, and the warlord and any unit he has joined are eligible to make a charge, the controlling player must declare a charge for the warlord and any unit he has joined targeting the enemy unit. So basically, you've always got to charge if something's within 12. So you've lost a little bit of flexibility there. If there is more than one potential target, then the warlord's controlling player may select any of those units to be target of the charge. So that's fine. A little bit like program behavior. You can then select. So whenever this warlord and any unit he has joined make a successful charge that is not disordered, the warlord on all other models in the in the unit the warlord has joined gain +2 attacks instead of the +1 attack granted for charging. So you'll basically feel like a world eater,
Yeah.
which is kind of like makes a lot of sense because of the berserk nature of the red thirst. But it can be disordered, which is something to bear in mind. In addition, you get an additional reaction during the movement phase. I think this is quite it's cool, it's thematic, and like really leads into the red thirst vibe of the Blood Angels. But you just be aware you lose a little bit of flexibility.
Yeah.
There are times that you might want to not charge a Primarch unit for whatever reason, but you are forced to, because that's your warlord trait.
Yeah,
So
or if someone has like an expendable unit, for instance, that you can just be kind of kited around the board with, your warlord and his mega retinue. I think this is a trap, personally.
yeah, I think even if you're traitor, Paragon of Unity, I think is probably better and more flexible. But I think that if you're leaning into a whole red thirst theme, then this is obviously going to be the one for you. But I think that, as John said right at the start, in Carmine Paladin, it's going to be mega useful for those deep strikes. But if you're Radaron, it doesn't matter because you can select from any Loyalist Legion going. But we will talk about that a little bit later. Right, let's go to the Rites of War. So, Day of Revelations.
This is what we see the majority of Blood Angels play.
Absolutely. I'm actually just going to read the fluff on this one as well because just why we see it so much. So, throughout the Great Crusade, the Ninth Legion became renowned for its wars of ultimatum. These campaigns of open domination against non-compliant worlds began with Sanguinius or one of his praetors, affording a world one opportunity to embrace unification or face a day of revelation. Oh, that is really cool. In which they would suffer the fury of the Blood Angels unleashed. Many foes confronted by the gathered Ninth Legion host were overcome with dread and awe and capitulated without hesitation. Those who did not would see the shining countenance of Angel Sanguinius performed into savage fury as blinding destruction was delivered from on high. Okay, cool. That is really cool. Kind of like little backstory to the Day of Revelation. Why don't you take us through the effects and the limitations? Yeah.
So at the start of, and this is the crucial bit, right?
Yes.
This is the paragraph that makes sense. So at the start of the battle, before any models are deployed or which player will take the first turn is decided, the controlling player of detachment using this right of war must declare to their opponent a turn number from turn 2 to 4, indicating on which of their own turns they will bring their deep strike assault into play. Then the controlling player places a marker anywhere in the battlefield, indicating the point where the first unit of the deep strike will be placed. So essentially, you remove a certain degree of tactical flexibility in terms of being able to kind of choose on the turn where stuff's going to be. Like your opponent is going to know where you're coming down, but at the same time, can't stop.
Yeah. So there's a bit of there's a trade-off there, isn't there? Ultimately,
He knows he is going to get fucked, but he is not sure exactly how badly.
Yeah.
So a deep strike assault, which includes only units from detachment using this right of war, does not make reserve rolls to see when it may enter play. Instead, the controlling player must bring the deep strike assault into play at the start of the turn chosen at the start of the battle. In addition, the first model placed to determine where the deep strike arrives must be placed within 6 inches of the marker. So you still got some degree of flexibility, and obviously you can then sort of chain out from. And it does not scatter. Brackets, if the first model cannot be placed at least 1 inch away from an enemy model because of these restrictions, and the controlling player may choose to place it anywhere in the battlefield, but must then scatter the model after placing it. So, pretty good. All units from a detachment using his right of war that are deployed onto the battlefield normally and are not placed into reserves gain the Fearless special rule until the start of the controlling player's second turn.
Yeah. Okay. Not places. Okay. So basically, it's trying to stop you getting blown off the board, and then you're losing. Yeah. Okay. Then those guys are running away, basically. So it's giving you a fighting chance to stick around long enough. Yeah. Okay.
So the limitations: compulsory HQ choices in the detachment using this right of war must be made up entirely of models with Legion Warhawk jump packs. And obviously to gain deep strike. All units that are made up entirely of models with a deep strike special rule in the detachment using this right of war must be assigned to a deep strike assault. So if it's got deep strike, you can't start on the board. So bearing in mind things like jet bikes and javelins, etc.
Javelins, yeah, I was going to say because javelins, like having a fearless javelin would be actually mega useful, but
Obviously,
yeah,
not having the javelins on board turn one may be a bit of a
mm,
pain. Well, to
mm,
bear that in mind. A detachment using this right of war may not take any fortification choices or any monster with a movement characteristic of 0 or dash, or that is otherwise unable to move unless that model also has the orbital assault vehicle special rule. And detachment using this right of war may not include any models with the subterranean assault special rule. Interesting that it doesn't limit you to a primary detachment as well. So you can take an allied detachment of Blood Angels
yeah,
with
I mean, that's really interesting actually. The only
yeah.
thing I would say is just we haven't got it here. It might just say at the top of the page like this can only be used as a primary, um, but I will check that in a moment. Yeah, I mean, in terms of your and Lee's kind of could you just summarize for us kind of like your and Lee's kind of like thoughts on
Yeah.
the Day of Revs?
I mean, it's got a lot of power behind it,
Yeah.
but you found certainly I've never played a Blood Angels army, but I've played against them several times,
Mm,
and I've always found, dependent on the makeup of what I have, um, that it is either quite easily countered
mm.
or it's like you are immediately transported to Foxville with your pants down and no hope of overcoming it. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, there are. I've, I find this is one of those. It's I don't want to say kind of glass cannon because that doesn't necessarily kind of really cover it. But if you've got a propensity to take things like augury scanners and ways
Mm,
of countering deep strike assaults and
mm,
not so much like your kind of master of signals because obviously you can't disorder it.
right.
But at the same time, there are like I've played it with my Iron Warriors, for instance, and had a wonderful time. And I've played against it with things like my Sons of Horus, has a large deep strike, which had a large deep striking sword as part of it as well.
Mm,
And found it tough, like really tough to counter. Um, Especially if you're clever with your positioning of not just the markers, but also deep striking units that arrive in.
mm.
Like you can do some really good stuff with this rival.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you might be able to still disorder this because it's the first because the first unit is not disordered. It's all the other
That's
ones I think are
yeah, that's
disordered
true. Actually, I haven't necessarily looked
potentially.
at that
Yeah,
recently.
I think you might be able to, but maybe somebody who plays Day of Revs who knows below can let us know whether Master of Signals are bane of your existence. I mean,
But yeah,
yeah,
going back to your original question, was that we had two people write in with a similar correspondence on the kind of the community show with the correspondence in it, and they both said that they struggled against certain countenanced army builds, namely Night Lords, where
mm,
they had where you've got for instance, you've got the ability to lots of propensity for it being a nighttime with prey sights. Obviously, you can get around kind of shrouds, but also lots and
yeah,
lots of scanners as well.
yeah,
So I think it can be. I think it's the way that I think a lot of Blood Angel players want to play, which
mm,
is good. I think because it kind of really leans into the Legion as a whole. But
mm,
it can be countered. I think if your opponent knows that they're going to come up against a Day of Revs list, then it's quite easy to build and kind of a foil to it. But
yeah.
at the same time, I think if you're kind of going against like an all comers list, I think you're going to have a pretty good time with this.
Yeah, it strikes me just kind of two things to unpick from what you said. It does strike me that if you are in a local gaming group and you are a Blood Angels player and people have cottoned on to the fact that you're going to be taking Day of Revelations all the time, I think week on week that you go to that gaming club, you need to change it up because um it will mean that your opponents will not really know whether they should be taking lots of like heavy sport teams, augury scanners and stuff. And you just like, no, I'm taking lots of jump packs, but I'm not taking a deep striking element in this one,
Yeah.
or whatever. I think that it as a Blood Angel player, if you are playing regularly with friends, you actually need to mix your army and write up rather than just playing in one way, because I think that, yeah, as exactly as you say, it is easy to counter. The other one that strikes me is that this needs to be done in overwhelming force. Like, if you and it's difficult because if you do it in overwhelming force, you've got 1,500 points of deep strikes, for example. Deep strikers in a 3K list. It will work, but I think your opponents will get fed up that actually the game is essentially over by turn 3 because you've just completely demolished them, which is why then they then build their list in a certain way to give them a fighting chance, and then you get demolished. And yeah, it's like a nuclear war situation, you know. It's just proliferation of arms, kind of like I feel with this one.
Worth bearing in mind as well that you can play a deep striking army or an army that has a lot of fast mobility with deep striking troops and not play Day of Revelation. Like, there's nothing
Yeah,
stopping you from not running a Rite of War or running a different Rite of War, you know, and that gives you the tactical flexibility because, you know, you might come up against certain. The difficulty is the fact that you might come up against, let's go, for instance, say you're going to an event, you might come up against a legion that is a very hard counter to you.
yeah,
You're running Day of Revelation, you have no choice but to utilize the Deep Strike Assault.
yeah,
Whereas if you're playing standardized or a different Rite of War or a standardized kind of list without a Rite of War, then you have the ability to kind of be more tactically flexible.
yeah.
So don't feel like you can play in a way that still plays to the Blood Angels, but doesn't have to play Day of Revelation.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I think that that's interesting. So that actually leads us nicely to our next conversation, which is going to be about the next Rite of War, which is called the Day of Sorrows. So I think this is actually a massively interesting Rite of War.
I've played against this twice, and it's been a different thing to unpick.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine that. And I think that on the whole, it probably gives smaller but a bigger range of buffs to an army. Whereas Day of Revelations is just literally, it's kind of like mainly one thing. You know, it's, well, two things: the Fearless on turn 1, and then the Deep Strike. So a detachment using this Rite of War may select Crimson Paladins as non-compulsory troops choices, and all Crimson Paladins units in a detachment with this Rite of War gain the line subtype. So really nice. So already it's starting to look like a Pride of the Legion type of thing going on here.
Yeah.
And they get the line. All models in a unit with this attachment that are made up entirely of models with the infantry unit type and the Blood Angel special rule gain the stubborn special rule while they have at least one model within 6 inches of an objective. If they already have the stubborn or fearless special rule, they gain no further benefit. It's interesting. Yeah, okay, so that's interesting. So basically, Tac Marines with Heart of the Legion would already become stubborn anyway, because Heart of the Legion is stubborn and the feel no pain. But this is for all your other units. I have a sneaking suspicion that Crimson Paladins also come with stubborn, but they are leadership 10. But this will count for all your other things on objectives. So
Recon squads and
yes,
this, that, and the other.
breacher squad, stuff like that. You know,
yeah. You know, you can pair that also with the Wall of Trade that gives you +1 leadership as well. Can make things really, really hard. You know, you can tactical range up to like stubborn 9 on objective.
Yeah.
So well.
I think that'll be really, really nice. And actually, as you say, if you're pairing that with that the central warlord trait, which is +1 leadership, actually this would pair really, really nicely. Because then everything's going to be like leadership 8, 9, 10, and then it's going to be stubborn. So yeah, definitely consider that one. Right, this is where it gets really interesting. So when any unit made up entirely of models with the infantry unit type, which is part of this attachment, uses this Rite of War, is reduced to 50% or less. So that means that, you know, if you've got a unit of 10, then it's 5 or less. Is starting a number of models. The remaining models gain Heart of the Legion, so they get that feel no pain. And then they get Hatred, Everything, Special Rule, and the line unit subtype if they did not already have it from the beginning of the next turn. This strikes me as something that end game could be a real, real pain to play against, because you're like, oh, I need to either wipe this unit off the board, but if there's a couple of guys left, they can just go grab really annoyingly go grab an objective, and now they've got to feel no pain. it's really, really interesting the way that you would play this. And I don't know whether you would want to be ballsy and go, you would want to min the squads, make them as small as possible to try and get it. Um, but that feels like a really dangerous kind of way to play. But I do feel like end game, this is really where it comes into its own, where units have really been kind of like whittled down. Limitations. So there are an awful lot of them. So in any combat that includes one or more models with this character subtype from attachment using this right war, the controlling player must issue or accept challenges in combat where applicable. Not too much of an issue because I suspect most people would probably do that anyway. The controlling player chooses which of their character issues and accept the challenges. Okay. Any units made up entirely of models with infantry or cavalry. I'll come back to the cavalry bit in a bit. Actually, I think that's going to be interesting. Or cavalry unit type, and the Blood Angel special rule, which is part of a detachment using this right of war, and that have been reduced to 50% or less of its starting models, must declare a charge at the closest enemy units if they are capable of making a charge at the beginning of the charge phase, as long as the target unit is no more than 12 inches away from a model in this charging unit. If there is no enemy units with at least one model within 12 inches, then no charge is needed to be cleared. So I think that on the flip side, it sounds great that you can get the line, you can go where you want to, but your unit can bait you away from objectives. It's the only thing that you need to consider.
The only thing
Yeah.
I would potentially look at is, you can potentially look at negating that if you wanted to as well. If you've got the ability to shoot at a unit that's further than 12 inches away.
Yes. Yes.
You then can't declare a charge against the eligible unit. So you've got to be a
Oh,
very
that's a good point. Yeah.
clever boy or girl or lemonade about what you're looking to target in order to kind of you can get around that with some clever interplay.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. This is actually quite a complex right of war, I think. And then no units with attachment using this right of war may be assigned to a deep strike assault, a subterranean assault, or a flanking assault, and may not be placed in reserves at the beginning of the battle. Although models may enter reserve after play has begun. Yeah, okay, this is interesting because it would have been really nice to have deep striking Crimson Paladins because they come with deep strike, but that is not an option for you. So this is like the anti Day of Revelations with no deep strike at all. But I still think this is a really interesting right of war, but I think it's going to be complex to play. I think you need to. You almost need to have like markers when they get to 50% or less to be able to track your units, I think.
This is the thinking person's Blood Angels right of war.
Yeah, 100%.
If you've not fallen to the red thirst and you've still got your wits about you, then this is try and play.
This is the one. Okay, cool. Yeah, really interesting road war. I would probably look more into this one.
As we go through, so be prepared for that.
Yeah, cool. Right, let's continue.
Okay, so I think we're into the units now. Oh no, we're not.
Okay, cool. So yeah, take us through the Fires of Heaven and the Perdition weapons.
Okay, so the Blinders have got loads and special weapons. Actually, they've got access to. It's really cool. So the first one is any model with the Blood Angel special will exchange a plasma pistol for an Inferno pistol for no additional points cost. So an Inferno pistol is range 6, strength 8, AP 1. On the melter. It's a short range melter pistol. It's brilliant.
Going to be great on Moritats, this in particular.
Yeah, it's no joke on the Moritat.
Yeah.
He's got to get right up in your grill, but if he does,
it's game over.
Yeah, exactly. You basically you've got to jump him out and place him within an inch of a unit. So even if it does move react away 4 inches or 5 inches, if it's got higher initiative, well, technically, actually, if you have initiative 5 in a unit, then you can't be within an inch. So you can be an inch and a bit away and you'll still be out of range. So just be careful about how close you're getting with stuff. But it's a melter pistol. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. And the fact that it's the same points cost as a plasma pistol, chuck it out for free. There's loads of people that got access to it. I think this is pretty deadly.
Oh my gosh, any model may exchange it. It's not just character models. Oh wow, okay. Can I, like in a command squad, can everyone? I'm not sure if everyone can take a plasma pistol. I have to. In fact, I've got the rules literally in front of me, so I'm going to continue looking at that while you
look at the position weapons, because the position weapons are very cool. So, and there's loads of choice here as well. So you can really build units to kind of do a job you need to do. So any model with both the Legionnaires Starch Blood Angel Special Rule and the character unit subtype may exchange a power weapon for a traditional weapon from the following list for 5. So all weapons listed here counts both power and flame weapons for those rules that affect such weapons, which I think is really interesting, especially the flame element. So you have a blade of perdition, which is strength +1, AP3, melee, two-handed. So obviously there's no ability to get additional attack for additional hand weapon. However, it is rending 6 up and brutal 2. Really, really cool. Great for kind of culling line infantry. You've got your axe of perdition, which is strength +2, AP2, melee, unwieldy, two-handed, and brutal 2, which is no joke. So getting up to strength 6, which is useful. Obviously, bear in mind your blade of perdition, for instance, if you're charging like a line tactical unit made up of like toughness 4 regular mooks, you're going to be wounding them on or killing them on 2s with brutal 2. So that's really, really nice. You've got your spear of perdition, which is +1 strength AP3, melee, reach 1, very nice. Two-handed and brutal 2, so no ability to make it AP2, but whatever. And then your maul of perdition, so strength +3, AP3, melee, two-handed and brutal 2. So the brutal element is the theme that's kind of running through the list here, but also I think these are great. And bearing in mind, you can really tailor a unit to do a job that you want it to do with all of the different options. But also, again, you can mix and match. So you can kind of have a couple of spears to kind of get some higher initiative early kills in there. You can have a couple of axes to swing later, but at AP2. You've got some swords in there. You've got some mauls. You need some high strength. I think it's really good.
Really nice, yeah. Just to say that a command squad, everyone can take a plasma pistol in a command squad, so you could go absolutely nuts and get everyone with an inferno pistol. And a vet squad can take 1 in 5 with a plasma pistol. Interesting.
Less fun, but
less fun. Yeah. Cool. Okay, that's that's really exciting. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean the AP2. I suppose most people are probably drawn to the AP2 on the axe of perdition because it's AP2, obviously. But I do think the maul of perdition is could be pretty cool as well. Yeah, if there's any way to get furious charge on some of these units, I think that would that would be really, really nice. Cool. Right, let's have a look what's next. Oh, baby. So the Ilias assault cannon. So this is a piece of Wargear that is essentially a smaller Keres, kind of the Keres from the Dreadnought, and it's available to the Imperial Fists and available to the Blood Angels as well. I would be looking to include as many Iliastus as possible in this, but that's just the kind of guy I am.
Come to that in a minute.
So yeah, 100%. So in Ilias cannon, it's an auto weapon. So they're not quite as good in the hands of Blood Angels, but I think the thing about the Blood Angels is the versatility of where they can take them over the Imperial Fist. That's the key thing, I think. So any model with the Blood Angel special rule and the infantry unit type may exchange a heavy flamer for an Ilias assault cannon for 10 points. So that does mean your heavy sports squads, they can be upgraded with them, and there is also a special units that can be upgraded with them, which we will talk about in a bit. A Legion Predator with a Blood Angel special rule may exchange its turret mounted Predator cannon for a turret mounted twin linked Ilias cannon for no additional points. So I think this is an interesting option, but it's always struck me that the problem you've got with exchanging one for the other is that a turret-mounted Predator cannon is a very long range. And then you reduce your range to 24 inches. We'll talk about the stats of this in a bit. So that actually means you're going to have to, with your tanks, play quite a close quarters game, which feels very Blood Angel-y. That's absolutely fine, but it puts your tanks at risk in a way that it wouldn't have done had your Predators been given las cannons or grav, the heavy conversion beamers, or just even the Predator cannon. So I think that's something to bear in mind, which is that you're going to need to protect those because they are now going to have to be within 24 inches. Any model with a Dreadnought or vehicle unit type may exchange a heavy flamer for an Ilias assault cannon for 20 points each. So that means a dreadnought can, because it can take heavy flamers in, yes, and Leviathan. They can take, so the Contemptor can take dreadnoughts, heavy flamers in its fists, so that you can upgrade those. Leviathan's got chest flamers, which you can upgrade as well. And I'd assume a Deredio can also upgrade this as well. What what I would say is that for 20 points, a assault cannon is very pricey. Yeah, it's really expensive. I think they are great, and having two Iliastus on a Leviathan Dreadnought just adds to the weight of fire that it can produce.
Double Storm Cannon with double Iliastus is going to hose down mooks.
Yeah.
It's going to be great, but you are spending.
It's going to be pricey. You know, it's 40 points because you've got to go up. You know, you're going to upgrade both of them. And then Contemptors. What's nice about Contemptors is they're always around the 200 points. Kind of 200 point mark. The moment you upgrade it with two Iliastus is getting to 240, which would be similar to like having a double Lascan on it. So I just think that just something to bear in mind. It's awesome, great theme, but it's pricey. Now in terms of the Ilias, the stats, it's 24-inch range, strength 6, AP 4, assault 4, rending 6 up, and malfunction. Now, so assault 4. AP4 and rending 6 up. All of those, it's just a fantastic weapon. Like it future proofs against mech and solar auxilia in particular. So this will just hose down and melt solar auxilia units, but it's going to be great against those Stalax that we're going to see an awful lot of, I think. And then the rending is just really nice if you want to go against a tank or whatever. The Saccharum can be rendered out relatively quite simply. The malfunction rule. If a weapon with this rule is used to make a shooting as part of a reaction, it gains the Gets Hot special rule for that shooting attack. So you've got a lot of shots, and you are, of course, because it's native, its base is AP4, you will be getting your saves against that. So it's not too much of an issue, but it's definitely something to bear in mind on your tanks if you've upgraded a ton of your tanks and you want to return fire, because I suspect there's going to be quite a lot of ones in there. And then the other thing, just to quickly go back, because we focus quite a lot on dreads there, vehicles can upgrade a heavy flamer. So things like a Kratos, there are side sponsons on a Kratos that are heavy flamers. There's side sponsons on a Predator that are heavy flamers. You can upgrade those for 20 points each as well.
You can make a classic bottle Predator if you wanted to, but you have, I think, a Maniac to do it.
Yeah, I think that it sounds cool in principle. I think that it's going to get so pricey, and for something so pricey that's going to be so close range, I think you could.
The Predator chassis is relatively fragile, I think, as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's so easy to get on the side of that thing or on the rear if you're within 24 inches now of your opponent. So, I think what it does have. What it does have in its favor is that they're all defensive weapons because they're strength 6, so they can return fire. But the problem with the return fire is that it's also got Gets Hot, so you're just going to get hot your tank out. Like it's just your tank. If you put Iliastus on all of your tanks, I would be surprised if your tank survived the game if you're returning fire all the time.
It's I think this is a bold choice.
Yeah.
I think on infantry.
Oh my god,
it's almost a no-brainer.
Oh
so
my
10 points is a bargain on vehicles. 20 points just feels insane.
Yeah, and the fact it's assault, so you can move and you can move and shoot, and you can assault after using these as well. Is even better. A great piece of Wargear in some cases. Cool. Right, let's have a look at what we have next.
We've got the Primarch,
the brightest one,
himself, the nicest guy in Heresy.
Apart from when he's committing a day of revelation on you. Okay, well, why don't you take us through this?
The only reason he's committing a day of revelation is because he's given you a chance.
That is a good point. That is a good point.
Look what you've made him do to you.
Right, talk us through it. And I would just say our Royal Rumble, Sanguinius wasn't at the tippity top, but he was pretty close up there. I think it was like third or fourth or something. He was one of the better ones.
So we often talk about Primarchs, is that they tend to be either an absolute one-man mega murder machine, or they're a force multiplier.
Yeah.
So as an example, like Alfarius just makes the Alpha Legion so much better, like so much better. But then you look at someone like Ferrus Manus, and he's just an absolute hammer wielding mega boy. And then you look at Perturaba and does nothing.
Yeah.
But it's by the by, we'll overlook him as being a complete and utter mook. So we'll see where Sanguinius lies. I suspect I know exactly where he's going to be, but see if you can guess. So he is movement 8. He is native weapon skill 8.
So good. So good.
Right at the top for being pro murderer. Straight away, he's marking himself out as pro murderer. BS 6, strength 6, toughness 6, 6 wounds, initiative 6, 6 attacks, leadership 10, and a 2 up save. So he's got the Wargear, and he's got all the rules. So he's got the Regalia Resplendent, the Blading Carmine, Infernus, and the all-important frag grenades. He may also exchange the Blading Carmine for the Spear of Telesto and the Moon Silver Blade for free. He is Master Legion. He's bulky 6 because of his big wings. Bear that in mind. He has angelic presence, great wings. He can deep strike. He is obviously a loyalist and sire of the Blood Angels. So, angelic presence. Any friendly models that are locked in combat and have at least one model within 6 inches of Sanguinius, as well as Sanguinius and any unit he's joined, may add +1 to the total number of successful wounds caused for the purposes of resolving each side as one combat. So, +1 combat red for being near. Not bad, right?
No, it's not bad at all. No, it's pretty decent. It's going to be useful. Is it number of 6, of course? So, you try and make a +1 calls for the purposes of side has 1 a combat. This is not stack. Okay, yeah, interesting. So you could draw a combat, but still potentially win now.
Still potentially win, exactly. His Regalia Resplendent provides a 2 arm save and a 4 invulnerable save, and allows any failed invulnerable saves made on a turn in which Sanguinius charges to be re-rolled.
That is absolutely loopy that you can re-roll that. That is so good.
Yes.
Well, I did not know that he could re-roll failed invuln saves on the turn he charges. That's insane.
And he's going to be charging because he's
ABC, mate. He's ABC.
Yeah, he is an absolute mega.
Oh my god, how would you? Oh my days! You just need brutal, wouldn't you? Like Ferrus Manus might be able to show him things too, but the thing is that Ferrus Manus would hit him on 5s presumably because his weapon skill 8. Oh man, yeah, okay.
Wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, Sire of the Blood Angels. Any friendly models with the Blood Angel special rule in the same army as Sanguinius, not necessarily same detachment, just the same army, that either deploys as part of a deep strike assault brackets or any other deployment method that requires a deep strike special rule, or has a Legion Warhawk jump pack. Bear that in mind. So much to have to deep strike if they've got a jump pack. Then +1 weapon skill in any turn which they make a successful charge. So they're +1 weapon skill. And then they're also +1 to wound on a charge as well.
Yeah, just for Blood Angels. Yeah, so it only affects Blood Angels.
But it's anyone in the army. So if you've got
but you wouldn't have. You would only have. It's only Blood Angels within the army.
Yes.
Yeah.
But not within the detachment. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but you would never have 2
detachments
of Blood Angels. Yeah, we're not some mad Mechanicum Archimandrite.
No, we're not. No. It's a shame. In addition, an army of Sanguinius Warlord gains additional reaction in the opposing player's movement phase.
Yeah, so I mean, movement phase reaction, fine, makes a lot of sense. But just having +1 weapon skill on things that are deep striking. So, oh my god! So all friendly models with the Blood Angel special in the same army as Sanguinius that either deploys as part of a deep strike assault, or has your dreadnought that deep strikes down, your Incandius dreadnought, whatever it's called, he would be +1 weapon skill. He would have weapon skill 6 on the charge.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I did not realize that. I had thought it was only for jump pack dudes. I hadn't realized it was for anything deep striking. Oh my god, that's crazy. And I thought it was only on the first turn. I didn't realize it was just like
no. It's
Oh,
just off
yeah,
I
for
go.
winning.
I'm charging. I'm plus one.
Oh my god, that's so good.
I
Okay,
know.
that's brilliant.
So good. He has great wings, Rob. Have you noticed?
I had noticed. I've painted them a
I'm about
number
to
of
say,
times.
how many sanguinists have you painted?
Yeah, quite a few.
I wonder why.
Yeah,
A, because it is a genuinely great model.
yeah,
And secondly, because he is how he is.
exactly.
So at the start of the controlling player's movement phase, or when deployed as part of a deep strike assault, Sanguini's movement characteristic may be set to a value of 14 for the duration of the controlling player's turn.
Yeah, so this is interesting because I think basically this is just going to talk us through like the same rules as the Warhawk jump out. I think the only difference is that is 14. So if he's on his own and he can move 14,
Mm-hmm.
then he gets +3 to his charge. But if he's stuck with slow Warhawk jump pack people, then he will get +2 to his charge. So, and he's got the capability of being on his own at some point during a game as well. He doesn't necessarily always need those ablasive wounds. But yeah, +3 to his charge when he is on his own is going to be really nice, I think.
Yeah. The last paragraph basically says that he can then run, but he
Yeah.
can't charge. So he can move 20.
Fuck, that's mental. Whoa, that's really good. Wow.
Very well, he can potentially make an out of sequence charge as well using the advanced reaction.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's totally true. Oh my God, that's so you. Oh my God, yeah, because yeah, you just like I dare you to shoot at me,
Yeah.
like yeah, and then if he's on his own, he'll get +3 to that charge
Yeah.
to the roll when you do the advanced reaction, and then Primarchs can shroud now, even though they're fearless, they can shroud because of the fact.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I hadn't thought that that would be a possibility. You just ram Sanguinius down the throat of someone, but actually, that's yeah. Okay, that's really interesting. And that's actually what it's like in the books because it's not often that Sanguinius is fighting with his. He's always on his own. Actually, he's just always inspiring people on his own, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, I see a problem over there. I'm going to go and
I'm
do
going to
it.
go do it myself. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Yeah, if anybody's soloed Sanguinius for an entire game, let us know because I'd be curious to see whether or not that's a legitimate strategy or not.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you. I've played against Sanguinius where he split off from a unit and just come and absolutely culled.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the thing is that it's nice to re-roll an in-run save, but actually, if you just got weight of fire,
Yeah.
and he's just taking it on a 2-up, he's gonna die, isn't he? I suppose that's the thing.
Yeah. But I have also been absolutely taken apart by this. Okay. Do you want to go through the war gears?
Yeah, sure. So he's got a gun. It's called Infernus, and it is a melter weapon to go with the theme of the melty stuff of the Blood Angels. It's a range 18 inches, strength 8, AP 1. And it's Assault 2, Armor Bane, Melter, but one shot. So once it's done, it's done. You can't use it.
Throws it in the skip.
Yeah, it's a powerful, really. I mean, it's a really powerful weapon. Its Armor Bane range is 9 inches. So it'd be really nice to blow up a tank and then charge its contents. But one shot, yeah, it's probably one of the better profiles for the Primarch guns, but it's just one shot, right? So that's how they've balanced.
You're going to forget about this 9 times out of 10 because you're just going to be so rigid for getting him into combat.
Yeah, exactly. So he has two options. He's got the sword that he is holding, the Blade and Carmine. And I'll do that one first, and then we'll go through the Spear of Telesto. So the Blade and Carmine is +1 strength, so that would make him strength 7.
Yeah.
But don't forget, he also gets +1 to wound from his actual Legion Blood Angel rule, which will make it will make a difference. So yeah, so like against the normal Primarch, he would usually wound on 3s with the Blade and Carmine, but actually he's going to wound on 2s because of that +1 rule. The exception might be people like if he was fighting the Ultimate Heresy, Rogue or Dawn, which means you can only ever wound him on 4s no matter your special rule. But that's only for a couple of Primarchs or maybe just like Rogue or Dawn. So it's AP2, it's melee, it's Rage 2, so he gets even more attacks. It's Rampage 2, so if he's outnumbered, he gets even more attacks. Motor Strike 5-up, lovely, and Shred as well.
So 9 attacks on the charge.
That is pretty nuts, but the fact that he gets +1 to wound He's going to
Yeah.
just basically be re-rolling those ones. All of those attacks are going to wound. You know, they are, you know, they are going to go through. So yeah, and just having the Murder Strike 5 up is just a nice little cheeky bonus. There's nothing not to love
He's got
about.
every rule there.
Yeah, it's nothing not to love about the Blade and Carmine.
And
It's
he's got Rampage. So if he does toot around on his own,
yeah. Oh
he's
yeah, yeah. You just get
like
even more attacks
11
with them.
attacks.
Yeah, 100%. And then the only thing other to point out is that the Blade and Carmine is a melee weapon, and then the Infernus is assault weapon. So I'd assume that that would be a +1 for. Definitely have to check that because it's not a pistol weapon. But
Oh,
I will,
no.
yeah, I'll double check that.
Yeah.
Um, and then we've got the Spear of Telesto and then the Moon Silver Blade. So this is quite an interesting one to do. So, and this is a free upgrade. He could just have this. So Spear of Telesto is strength 10, AP1. You might be looking at going, oh, okay, well, the higher strength, that's absolutely brilliant. I'm just going to take that. You know, that's going to be doubling out things that you wouldn't usually be able to double out. You know, Myrmidons, for example, you know, battle hardened units. This is going to be great against anything that's battle hardened. It's AP1, fantastic. It's melee, it's two-handed, so you can't gain any additional attacks from there. It's mastercrafted, right? It's Lance, so Lance basically makes AV
Anything.
whatever. It makes it 12. Right? If it's higher than 12, it makes it 12. So you're basically going to be blowing up most of the tanks that you come in contact with, and then it's Exo Shock 4 up. So you're definitely going to be blowing up any tanks. Yeah, the problem is if you're with a bunch of assault marines, the assault marines are just going to explode with you. So this is definitely one to solo Sanguinius with if you go after tanks. But I think that you might look at it and go, well, there's a lack of rules there. It's good for killing tanks, but actually having strength 10 just actually is great. Like it's going to
Yes,
kill a
yes.
lot of units in the
Yeah.
game just outright. But it also has a um, a shooting profile, the Spear of Telesto, and it says once per battle in the shooting phase, in lieu of making any other shooting attack, Sanguinius may make a shooting attack using the Spear of Telesto using the profile below. Should he choose to do this, he may not make either shooting attacks or melee attacks with the Spear of Telesto. So you could, it's basically got one shot. Like if you choose to throw the Spear of Telesto, like that's it. You'll be forced to use Moon Silver Blade. I'll come to that in a second. But you could do this attack if you wanted. So it's range 12, strength 10, AP1, assault 1, exo shock 4 up, instant death, and lance. It all sounds cool, like all sounds great. Maybe really useful to getting one Tat Marine off off something in the last ditch attempt. But I think to lose this weapon would be super sad. But an instant death, you know, I don't know, against contemptors and things like that, D3 wounds might be nice, but yeah. So the Moon Silver Blade is strength user, so it'll be strength 6 for Sanguinius. AP2 is melee, mastercrafted, blind, which is massively useful. Duelist Edge, so he's going to get um, he'll get +1 initiative in a challenge, and then it's got Moon Silver. So any unsaved wound caused against a model with the demon unit type or Sacrus subtype is instead counted as 2 wounds. Wounds caused in excess of models' remaining wounds do not spill over to other models. So it's almost like brutal
Yeah.
for kind of like demons and psychers basically. And if you know that you are going to face demons, then it might be more sensible for you to take the Spear of Telesto and Moon
Yeah.
Silver Blade. I think you can choose at the start of a battle. I think that you could just say to your opponent, oh, okay, well, he's going to be taking the sword against Marines, and then, oh, you're a demon, I'm going to be taking the Spirit Telesto and the Moon Silver Blade. Just magnetize it, and I think you got the flexibility there.
Yeah. I think he's just it's just an absolute he's great because he's both a force multiplier and
Yeah.
he's an absolute pro murderer in his own. He is 485 points, so he's
It's quite
right at the
expensive, isn't it?
expensive end, but I think he's worth them.
Oh my God,
I
yeah,
think the only
100%.
thing is that I'd be so tempted just to solo him around,
Yeah,
absolutely culling people. But the difficulty about slowing, like trapping him in challenges, is going to
yeah,
be, or the same thing that befouls all Primarchs is the challenge mechanic in
yeah,
the second edition does really mean that like if you charge into a tactical squad and declare a challenge with your
Yeah,
guard,
yeah,
then you're not going to lose your guy. You're going to slow him, and that's the thing you see. Like he needs to be kind of just like moving from combat to combat, absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
So I think that's the thing to be really, really cautious of.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. Absolutely brilliant. Like, if you're a Blood Angel player, you're going to try and take this guy as much as possible, and build your army around this guy at Day of Reps. I mean,
You
that's
have
the
to,
thing, isn't it?
yeah.
Like, because of the +1 weapon skill, you kind of like it's just a. And this is what I mean at right at the start of the show, where I always feel with Blood Angels, they play in a certain way because actually the Primarch and the Day of Revelations combined together with that +1 weapon skill is just so powerful, that it just makes so much sense to play it that way. Like, it's not like I resent Blood Angel players playing it that way. It's just like, of course you're going to do that. That's the way that they fight in the law, and also the way the rules are geared up.
Yeah.
So yeah, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant Primarch. So yeah, nice one. Cool. Right, let's have a look at some unit entries. I think, so Dawnbreakers. So uh, lots of rules for the Dawnbreakers. They are
Mm.
150 points. Some of the key things that we need to know about them is that there's a Dawnbreaker and a Dawnbreaker champion. They come in units of 5, and then you can add kind of 5 more guys on top of that. They are weapon skill 5. Lovely, elite unit, whatever, all good. They're 2 apiece, and then the Dawnbreaker champion has 3 attacks, and then leadership 9. But really nice, they all have a 2-up save, so they've all got Artificer armor, which is
150
GPM.
points base feels pretty good value for these
Really,
five.
really good value. Yeah, I think these are really, really good value. Like, I've seen Alpha Legion players take these as their rewards of treason unit, and if
Mm.
they're taking them as rewards of treason unit, it tends to be because they're quite good. In terms of Wargear, things to note: they've got a Warhawk jump pack. They've got grenade dischargers. We'll come to that in a bit, and then a Falling Star pattern power spear. And then in terms of the rules, so in terms of the unit types, there's only one character. So it's not like everybody's a character in that unit. Just the sergeant, the champion, is a character. And then they get Furious Charge. That is a great buff. John has done and talked about how that can be paired with a Muratat, and can be paired with other characters that we'll come to with rad grenades. And then that will make the spears instant death, because they will become strength 6. They've obviously got the Blood Angels rule, so they've got +1 to wound on the charge, and then they've got the set the sky aflame rule. I will have a look at the set the sky aflame rule now, because we know what everything else does apart from that. So when a unit composed entirely of models with this special rule, now please bear this in mind. It says when a unit composed entirely of models with this special rule is deployed as part of a deep strike assault, any units within 6 inches of unit's final position suffers a -1 modifier to their leadership characteristic when taking any pinning test caused by deep strike assault. That sounds brilliant. That sounds good in principle. And you might be like, oh, I'm going to add Sanguinius to this unit, and then that will give the -1 modifier. No, it literally says the first opening words is when a unit composed entirely of models with this special rule. So please bear that in mind when attaching characters to these guys. You would lose that.
Yeah.
Um,
You think that you can attach your Fear 1 causing character to them and
it
-2
two it's not going to work. So please just bear that in mind. Like, what I think people will what I would do to get around this is have you can put an apothecary with them, because the apothecary gains all the rules of that unit, so that's fine. Like, that's a legit move. But I would have these guys deep striking on their own, and then I would have, like, Sanguinius and a squad of assault marines. They're just ablative wounds for him in another unit, and then a herald with another unit, right? Like, that's probably the way I would do it. And then have the modifiers overlapping one another on the
Yeah.
board to try and do that. So don't try and stack them in one unit, because you'll be sorely disappointed. So please bear that in mind. The Falling Star patterns bit, I'll come to the options in a bit, but the Falling Star pattern power spear, John's gone through this an awful lot when he put the show together for the Muratat. But it's essentially counted as a power weapon. It's +1 strength, which matches, of course, really nicely with the Furious Charge. It's AP3. It's Reach 1, which that's the good one, right? That's always on. It's always the Reach 1. It's
Yeah,
always on.
very good use of
It's melee, and it's rending 5 up,
yeah.
which is,
It's worth What's that Morithat show we did is not on the main videos over on the Patreon. So if you're not aware, then head over there and you can check it out on the.
Um, and then the grenade discharger. So it's 12-inch range. You can have frag bombs, which is strength 3, AP 6, assault 3 pinning, or you can have just one shot with a crack bomb, which is strength 6, AP 4, assault 1. I think all of those are good, but I actually think that the chance to pin, even though it's strength 3, I think the chance to pin before you charge is probably what I would always tend to go for. Just because you're gonna, with 10 guys, that's 30 shots. Your opponent's probably going to lose one guy, so then just forcing that morale check will be massively useful. And we'll come to the Equinox Power Blade case in a bit, but it's 25 points for additional due to be added, which is actually pretty good value, I think, for 2 wound kind of veteran stats. And with everything they come for, they can be upgraded with a Equinox Power Blade case for 5 points. The entire unit may take melter bombs for 25 points per unit. So the more guys you have, the more cost effective that becomes. And then the Dawnbreaker champion can have a power weapon for free. Like a power axe or whatever that might be useful, or a perdition weapon for 5 points. And again, John went through those and loads of options. Like a brutal axe it's going to be really nice in challenges. But I can see why people would just go, I'm just going to take the power spear. So the Equinox Power Blade case is a pair of melee weapons, each with a different profile, as listed below. In any given assault, the wielder must choose one of the profiles before making any attacks, and all their attacks in that phase will use the chosen profile and gain an additional attack for using 2 combat weapons. So whatever you do, you gain an additional attack here. But you just choose which profile it is. So it's strength user, but don't forget they have furious charge on the charge, and on a successful charge, they get +1 to wound as well. So it's AP3. The first one, the Sunrise Blaze, is melee, shred, and sudden strike. So that's good on the charge because it'll be initiative 5 and shred. So you're re-rolling those wounds. And then the Sunset Blade, which is probably what I would tend to go for, I think, just by having a look, is rending 5+ and sunder. So hopefully glancing a vehicle out there.
I don't see it, to be honest with you. I know it's only 5 points, but I would still be tempted to keep your falling star power spear. I think the native +1 initiative, the rending 5 up, and it's the +1 strength for me that does it.
Yeah, I agree.
Rend, I think yes, you're not going to get the additional attack. But
it makes no sense to me that this would be a 5-point upgrade. I cannot see it makes no sense to me that it's an additional upgrade, basically. But
personally, I think I would be tempted just to keep them as they are. Even the champion, I wouldn't even bother with a perdition weapon, I don't think. I think I'd just keep them exactly as they are.
Yeah, 100%. Right, let's have a look at the next unit, the Crimson Paladins. Why don't you take us through these, John? Because these look absolutely awesome. Let's see if the rules are as good as what they look.
Bastard to paint though. These give me the same level of fear that the Deathwing companions.
Agreed. They take a long time to paint.
Yeah, I have painted 5 of these in the past, and that was enough to last me an entire month. So they are 145 points for 3. So bear in mind they are a unit of 3 to start off with. I think it's almost, you have to look at Crimson Paladins in a Day of Sorrows list. I probably don't think I would ever take them not in a Day of Sorrows list, but in a Day of Sorrows list they are. Oh, so good. So good. Right. So they are weapon skill 5. Brilliant. And then they are standard marine stats, 2 attacks base, 3 attacks for the Crimson Exemplar. The leadership 10, which is really, really useful, and then obviously Cataphracti Terminator plate. So they come with a power weapon and a Coriolis pattern power shield as standard. The rules that they gain are relentless, obviously, bulky 2, obviously, native deep strike built in, very nice. The blood is forever and stubborn. So a Crimson Paladin unit of no more than 5 models may take a Legion Land Raider Proteus character, or a unit of any size may take a Legion Land Raider Spartan as dedicated transport. Very nice. So you can buy additional guys for 40 points each, which again I think is relatively kind of reasonable in terms of pricing. You may any model may exchange its power weapon for a sunset blade for free, and for every 5 models in the unit, one Crimson Paladin may exchange his Coriolis pattern power shield for one of the following: an Ilias assault cannon for 10 points, a heavy flamer for 5 points, or a plasma blaster for 10 points. Up to 2 paladins may exchange their power weapon for a power fist, 10 points, or a chain fist of 15. And the Crimson Exemplar may exchange both its power weapon and Coriolis power shield for a perdition weapon for free. And the Exemplar may take a grenade harness. So, blood is forever. This is a very, very cool rule. So bear in mind, obviously, we talked about some of the warlord traits and the rise of war as well. So, while locked in combat with a unit that outnumbers them, a Crimson Paladin unit gains the Feel No Pain 5-up special rule. If outnumbered by more than twice their own number, so bearing in mind you're starting for the unit of 3, then they instead gain the Feel No Pain 4+ special rule. If any unit with the independent character special rule that joins this squad does not gain this special rule and does not count for the purpose of determining whether the unit is outnumbered, which is really, really useful. You put a character in there and you're still working on the base value. So each Crimson Paladin and Crimson Exemplars count as 2 models for the Bulky 2 special rule, and likewise any enemy models with the variant of Bulky rule counts number of models for the purposes of transport capacity, blah, 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 blah. If locked in combat with more than one enemy unit, add the size of all enemies together to decide if the Crimson Paladins are outnumbered. So this is really, really, really nice. If you're going against a 10-man unit, then you're going to get a Feel No Pain 5-up. If you happen to be on an objective and Day of Sorrows and getting Heart of the Legion, then you're going to gain that native 4-up regardless. So that's really fucking cool, which makes these guys an absolute bastard to shift, because they are 2-up save, 4-up invulnerable, 4-up Feel No Pain a lot of the time. It's like, yeah, you get to shoot them off basically, because you're not going to get them off in combat, are you?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. These are really cool. Models are great. Would you go like? So again, the line in the Day of Sorrows, they can take a Land Raider Proteus or a Spartan. Interesting. So I'd be whether it's just one massive squad in a Spartan or 2 smaller squads in Land Raiders.
For me, when anyone says small units of Terminators and Land Raiders, that gives me the absolute fizzy knickers. So
Go for that one.
yeah, for me it would be small units and Land Raiders with characters. Thank you very much.
Yeah, like I don't know. But the thing is, do they gain? So that they have stubborn. Yeah, interesting. Got stubborn 10 as well. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Oh right, yeah. Because I was like, oh, we'll put a herald with them, but actually, it's probably more useful that you put like a champion or a chaplain actually with them.
Chaplain.
Attacks. Yeah.
Yeah, really, really smart. So the Sunset Blade is counted as a power weapon for the rules. It's strength user, AP3, melee, rending 5+, and sunder, which is pretty cool. Like,
Yeah,
great.
when paired with the +1 to wound, you might go, oh, well, it's only usually winning on 4s, but actually, when they charge, it'll be winning on 3.
Rending 5-up is really, really nice
Yeah,
as well.
really nice. Yeah.
Can't go too far wrong there. Bearing in mind as well, the Exemplar can also switch his for a position weapon too. So
Yeah, the other thing that we haven't considered is because obviously we talked about Day of Sorrows for these guys, but with
yeah,
Day of Revelations, if these guys deep strike in,
yeah,
because they're deep striking, they get +1 to their weapon skill as well. So they'll be weapon skill
yeah,
6 on the deep
and they
strikes.
gain Shroud as well.
Yeah, okay,
Although
interesting.
to be fair, yeah, she's true. So obviously they're only getting the Feel No Pain in combat, not against shooting, but they're getting their Shroud against shooting as well. So yeah,
Interesting. Yeah.
really, really, really cool. So the Coriolis power shield has been fact. So we use the fact profile here. So change the ability of this Wargear to reduce the result of all to wound rolls made that target a unit in which the majority of models have a Coriolis power shield by a weapon with the melee type by -1.
Okay, yeah. So there was obviously some confusion. If the whole unit didn't have it, then did they lose the buff? But they've done it the same as the Custodies, which most of the
Absolutely. So you can have 2 guys with, let's say you've got a unit of 3, you can have 2 guys with shields and power weapons, and then give the Exemplar a perdition weapon, and you're still going to get the bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, cool. So, oh, it's a melee. It's just melee, isn't it?
It's just
Yeah, it's just melee. Okay, cool. That's still useful. And the fact it's not -1, it's -1 strength, is it?
yeah, it's much more strength.
Oh no, it's not.
Oh,
No,
is
it's
it not
minus one
to
to wound.
that's not to
Interesting.
win?
So it's still strength. 8 could still double them out, but it's just harder to wound them. Interesting.
It's
Okay, cool.
wisdom.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I really like these. I think they're really good. I think that um players would probably lament the fact that their sunset blades are the profile that they are. And then power fists and chain fists can be quite expensive on them. But I think that they come with a lot of other rules paired with the Day of Sorrows that makes them actually a
They're
reasonable
not mega killy,
no.
but they are so difficult to get rid of.
Yeah, yeah. Stubborn
Like,
10. I mean, it's
really
nuts.
difficult to get rid of. Bearing in mind that like base is the same kind of points cost as like a tactical squad, like
Hmm, hmm.
a 10-man tactical squad. By the time you're given an Artemisia armor and like a Nuncio Voxer of Exeter and a couple of other bits of war gear, the same points cost as these guys will rail for a tactical squad without them being touched, probably. So
Yeah, that I suppose, yeah, they're not going to do well, I don't think, against other elite units, and you would
no,
be using them incorrectly if you send them against other elite units, but using
you
them
have got your own elite units to deal with.
exactly right.
You've
Yeah,
got your
exactly.
sanguinians to deal with, haven't you?
Exactly, 100%. Cool. Okay, let's have a look at what's next. So, as you see, lots of models and lots of units for the Blood Angels. So we've got the Angels tiers. And these guys are essentially the equivalent of destroyers, but they're the kind of the Blood Angels specific ones. These are excellent. Like these are really, really good, I think. So they're 150 points base. They come with the jump pack, the Warhawk jump pack, but
Mhm.
they are heavy, which is something just to consider. So they can't run, but the fact that they can re-roll saves from blast weapons is going to be very useful. So some of the stats they're pretty like mer stats. They're just like it's weapon skill 4. That's fine. They're 1 wound apiece. They've got 2 attack base and then 3 for the Arch Erelum.
Yeah.
Leadership 9
They're
on
also
the
150
character.
points for 5 as well, so they're not cheap, especially when we
No,
look at Breakers, for instance.
yeah, yeah, 100%. And then they've got a 3-up save. So they're pretty equitable to a destroyer squad. Um, just on a normal Legion list. Let's have a look at their war gear though. So they come with, and this is where I think that they do start to make up for their points. So 2 Volkite Serpentas, which obviously is 2 pistols. You can fire as many pistols. You can fire up to 2 pistols, so that's absolutely fine. And then you gain
You can
obviously
find many
because
pistols you like, as long as you like two.
exactly. And then obviously because they have pistols, 2 pistols, that's an extra close combat weapon as well. They got chainsword, rad grenades, frag and crack grenades, obviously, and power armor, and then the Warhawk jump pack, as I said. They've got counter attack, as you might expect from destroyers, and they've got stubborn, brilliant. So that's stubborn 9 or stubborn 8 if the character's gone, and then they've got bitter duty. Bitter duty is no longer really much of an issue in the way that it used to be. Um, and then there, so I think the Volkite Spencers is a great option, but I
Okay.
think like this, but you have even more options to choose from. So you can add more Irelim to your unit for 20 points each. And the entire unit may take melter bombs for 25 points, which is great. Like it's not often that you can take melter bombs on a whole unit, and then the two of the specialist units from the Blood Angels can just do that. Um, so for an extra 10 points, they can take an Angel's Tier grenade launcher. And then the profile for that, it is a rad weapon. It's range 24, strength 4, AP 4, assault 3. So if this is a squad of 10, that's 30 shots with rad phage and fleshbane and AP 4. Like, oh my god. Oh my god. What's not to love about that? They can have a heavy flamer for 5 points, and then this is the one you tend to see the most of, an Ilias
Yes.
assault cannon for 10 points. So you have got, in a way that the Imperial Fist can't have, you have now got a unit with Warhawk jump packs with Ilias assault cannons. So you've got a fast and maneuverable unit with a which is pumping out 40 shots, strength 6, rending on a 6, AP 4. Um, this is so good. So good. They
They've
are
been
vulnerable because they've got 3-up save and 1 wound, but the amount of shots that these guys can pump out is just fantastic.
Having been on the receiving end of them, I can tell you that they are no joke.
Yeah. And then they can have a heavy chainsword, which I think is plus, I want to say it's +2 strength. Yeah, and everyone can take a heavy chainsword. So that is quite a good close combat option, considering paired with the rad grenades. I think that's quite an interesting option. But I think that you're going to see the Ilias, this assault cannon option more often than the others because it's just so good.
Yeah.
The sergeant, the character, he can take all the things that you would expect, including though a thunderhammer, which is pretty rare to just get on a normal
It's
one
25
character.
points for
It's very
weapons.
expensive. You probably wouldn't do that. I would just give it another Iliastus, right? I wouldn't.
Yeah, I'd buy another guy with an Ilias assault
Yeah.
cannon. I think the thing is you've got to really bear in mind as well is that like 10 of these guys gets really expensive with Iliastus.
Oh
But
yeah.
5 of them, you only need 1 or 2 to die, and their effectiveness is quite heavily reduced. So you want to kind of go between 6 and 8, I reckon.
I think that's good. Yeah, I think that's good. Somewhere in the middle. And then the Archer Illum may exchange one or both his Volkite Spencers for a plasma pistol for 5 points each. That is good value, and that is plasma pistols can then be turned into Inferno pistols.
Correct.
Yeah, so you could take 2 Inferno pistols for 10 points. And then Artificer Armor for 10 points as well. I actually think that's really good value for that. And I could see a situation where you shoot your pistol weapons. Oh no, sorry. Literally ignore what I was about to say. But if you want to get stuff out of a tank, just having those 2 pistol weapons is just really, it's just 2 Inferno pistols is just really, really nice. So
love it.
Cool. Yeah, great option. And then don't forget they'll get +1 weapon skill if they deep strike, but they'll just get +1 weapon skill in Day of Revelations anyway when on the charge because they've got Warhawk jump packs. So a really good option. Cool. What are you calling it? Incandius?
I call it an Incandius, but
let's call it that then. Incandius. Yeah. Right. Take us through the Incandius then.
Okay, so this is a unique dreadnought type, and unique dreadnought types, as we know, are super fucking cool. Just look at Rhinonaut, just look at Telemachus. We love a unique dreadnought. So it is native movement 8, weapon skill 5, and BS 5. Strength 7, toughness 7, 6 wounds, initiative 4, 3 attack, leadership 9, 2 up save. A normal dreadnought, you're thinking so far? No way, Jose. So it comes with 2 talons of perdition with built-in heavy flamers, an automatic deflector, and an Incandius booster pack. Interesting. So it hasn't got anywhere near the options that your standard Contemptor has, but it is geared up for a completely different role, really. So Contemptor Incandius may replace its built-in heavy flame with one of the following: an inbuilt melter gun for 10 points each, or an Ilias assault cannon for 15. I still think that's crazy expensive. It may replace both its talons of perdition and built-in heavy flamers with a Gravis Power Fist and inbuilt heavy flamer for 3, which I think is potentially worth considering, depending on what you want it to do.
So it's interesting. So you may replace both of its talons. So if you want an Incandius, so you can't have like one talon.
You can't have one talon and one
fist. Just like 2 fists or 2 talons. Got it. Okay. All right. Interesting.
So the booster pack may be used once per battle in one of 2 ways. These options are mutually exclusive, and the use of one means the other may not be used in that battle. Think of it as a Saturn V rocket. It's got a one-use only booster rocket. And funny enough, if you actually look at the model, it's a one-use only booster rocket. So you can do one of 2 things. So you can either deep strike it. Now, bear in mind, we talked about with Sanguinius earlier, and also paired with Day of Revelation as well. Give this a consideration. So, deep strike at the start of the battle before any movements to deploy this battlefield. The controlling player may choose to place a Contemptor into reserves and give the deep strike special rule. It may then take part in a deep strike assault or another deployment that requires the use of the deep strike special rule.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's just lovely, isn't it? I mean, if you're doing Day of Revelations, this is an obvious choice. If you're not doing Day of Revelations, though, I mean, that's the other thing. We've spoken a lot about like Day of Revelations, but you can just put these guys into Deep Strike Assault without Day of Revs, and only Alpha Legion can do such mad antics with their dreadnoughts. So
this is true. So the other is Shock Assault. So when activated, the Contemptor Dreadnought's movement characteristic is set to 12 inches and gains the Hammer of Wrath 2 special rule for the duration of the controlling player's turn. While this effective active, the Incandius may ignore all other terrain and models and terrain freely when moving, but may not end its movement phase in impossible terrain within 1 inch of another model. It's got to take a dangerous trait just as normal. And while the Incandius booster pack is activated, the model may not run. But essentially, you make a 12-inch move as opposed to an 8-inch move.
Yeah, and then you get +2 to your charge roll, and then you get some extra attacks at strength 7
Yeah.
for your Hammer of Wrath as well, which is just really nice.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting it's not slowed because so it's not slowed by terrain either.
No. No, it's
Interesting.
just an absolute. It's great. Love it. I think 200 points base. He's got all of his Wargear there. I think Rob's just crashed. So we'll see what
No,
comes
no,
up.
I was just sorry. No, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
Oh,
I was just,
you've been the most static I've ever seen you.
I just, yeah, it was interesting because,
You were agog.
it's because It's because terrain obviously usually slows Contemptus unless it's a Leviathan with move through cover. So,
Yeah.
seeing the fact that it doesn't affect that just makes this so far so mobile, and then the +2 is just it's just brilliant. Man alive, yeah, that's scary.
Yeah.
And like you know, this might as well have Deep Strike, Day of Revelations next to it, and then Shock Assault, um,
Dave, sorry.
Day of Sorrows next to it, right? Because you can use them in both rights of war, which is just
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant.
So
Man, I just did not want to start a Blood Angels army after this. I was like, I've tried twice, just not
yeah,
been like super happy with where it's gone, or just like not got any games in. And then I'm now going, oh, I remember why I tried to attempt to start Blood Angels multiple times because of stuff
yeah.
like this.
Because they're great. They're just so good. I've painted two, but for other people, and to be honest with you, I kind of always found them. So I found them really hard work.
They are because of because of all the stuff that's going on. They are
Yeah.
a big time investment. Yeah,
But I think this was back in the day of like Mark II and Mark IV assault squads and stuff. I think
yeah.
now with Mark VI assault squads and
You can
I think I'm
save some time on those bits, can't you? Yeah.
slightly more palatable. But even then, like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the idea of doing more Crimson Paladins, yeah, it's
Yeah,
that
that's what I want to do. Is I
eye-wateringly
want to do.
incredible.
I want to do Crimson Paladins and Land Raiders, and like I
Yeah.
said, I just can't. I just can't do it, man. Just
Yeah.
can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so Talons of Perdition. This weapon is counted as both power and flame weapons for the rules that affect such weapons. It's strength user, so it's strength 7, but obviously it's plus into wound on the charge
Hmm.
because it's Blood Angel. AP2, melee, shred, and brutal 2. I would still be tempted to go 2 fists as opposed to 2 talons. Would you?
Yeah, I have to agree. This needs another rule basically to make it worthwhile. It needs something like Sunder. It needs something like Deflagrate. It needs
Yeah.
something just to pip it over the Gravis
But
Power Fist
the thing
because
as
the
well,
Gravis Power Fist because
yeah,
they're strength 9, um, and then
brute three.
the brutal 3 is just superb. But also, if you can like you pair the Gravis Fist with the +1 to wound, you know
Yeah,
it's just you're not gonna you go against a Leviathan Dreadnought and you're
huge.
like usually I would wound you on 3s, but now I'm going to be wounding you on 2s. That's absolutely fantastic. So I
I
can
think.
see if sorry, go for it. Go for it.
Sorry, I think if this had, considering he's got 2 lightning claws, why just give it +2 attacks?
Yeah,
As
agreed. Yeah,
2 lightning claws.
yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Yeah, I think it's difficult because I think I would just, yeah, as you say, I would always take the power fists. And the fact that you've got a heavy flamer inbuilt with those power fists, you can then just upgrade those with the Iliastus
Mhm.
because it literally says that you can do that within that rule.
Just
So,
20 points though, as opposed to 15
yeah,
for
yeah.
Talon, which I think, and then 240 points, I think he feels quite expensive.
You know, yeah, I don't know. I just go, I'd go for the 2 power fists. Like, for
Yeah,
me, I think, yeah,
I I agree with you. I think it's a shame that you want to remove the cool weapon for
mm,
the regular weapon, but there you go. This is the world we live in.
yeah, yeah, 100%.
Okay, but yes, if you are, I think if you're Blood Angel play, you want to take one of these, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. I think the speed, the versatility of it is just excellent. And also you can decide, but when you turn up to the battle, you can be like, I've got 2 ways I can deploy this thing. I want to put this in just as a deep strike or shock assault, and both are 2 very, very good ways to deploy a dreadnought.
Yeah.
And the other thing I love about the deep strike assault part of it is that you're not spending 100 points on a drop pod in a way that other legions would. You're saving points there, which is brilliant.
Yeah, and dreadnought drop pods are nigh on useless these days anyway. So
Hmm.
let's just all move on with our lives and look at the sanguinary guards. We did cover these in a couple of
A community show, I think. Yeah,
community
community
shows.
show.
Yeah, the one you and I did in July, I think it was. So we won't spend too much time on them, but safe to say that they're a long overdue unit. They are the Golden Boys. They're in loads of the artwork and here on the battlefield. We'll quickly whiz through them. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of headlines for me.
Yeah.
So they all come with perdition weapons. That's really,
Yeah.
really nice. They
It's
can
like
be
Paragon
taken
Blades.
as a command squad, which is really, really, really nice. And you can give them a Legion standard. That's nice. So they're going to become scoring, and then they get all the buffs associated to that. So I think it's like leadership 10.
But also the
Sorry.
Burning One special rule. So if you have got Sanguinius in the army, here we go.
Yes. Yeah, go take us through it. Take us through it.
So if selected as part of a detachment in the army that includes Sanguinius, all Sanguinary Guard gain +1 attack while Sanguinius has 4 wounds or less.
Yeah.
So if Sanguinius removes the casualty, all Sanguinary Guard that detachment gain +1 attack.
Yeah. So these are so they're just a solid, command squad, right? And the fact that they can take perdition weapons gets around the fact that perdition weapons can only be taken by characters. So that's a great way to unlock perdition weapons en masse.
Yeah.
The problem that these guys suffer is that they don't have any form of invulnerable save, and they are 40 points apiece. So you are having to compare, and the automatic comparison, not just with the command squad, but the automatic comparison people are going to make is with the Dawnbringers, because they're 25 points a model, and they generally have just quite good weapons options, and they come with a lot of rules. But I think that actually, for if you are looking for mass perdition weapons, if you are looking for a scoring unit and something that's thematic that can go with Sanguinius, this just fulfills all your options, doesn't it? So yeah, and make sure you buy those Sanguinary Guard kits before GW get rid of them, because I suspect that these will be gone in no time at all with the new 40k Sanguinary Guard that we've seen.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't think they've aged particularly well, personally. I think that they just, don't do it for me, and the new one doesn't do it for me either. So
I think there are some like the torsos on these Sanguinary Guards. I really like.
Good.
I think
Legs bad.
Yeah, legs are not so good anymore. I think solid unit. I think that there'll probably be a piece of paper between like a command squad and these in terms of points. It's interesting as well that they're a support squad, so they're an HQ choice, but you can take them as your compulsory. They've kind of got around that one. So really, really interesting.
Cool. These are the other exemplary battles unit that we had, the Ophanim.
Yeah, so these are like the equivalent of like Sanguinary Guard, just without jump packs, aren't they? Really?
Basically.
Yeah. It's been a while since we've gone through these, so yeah, let's go through these properly, I reckon.
Yeah. So interesting things, standout stuff: weapon skill 5 and 3 attacks base.
Oh wow, that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, 130 points gives you 3 guys. So quite pricey, but we'll see if there's a reason why. So you get a Blade of Judgment, a bolt pistol, a combat shield, fragment grenades, and artificer armor as standard. They are Legiones Dark's Blood Angels. They are chosen warriors, which is really good. Shadows of Judgment, the Burning Eyes, again support squad, and the Loyalist only. So it can't be taken in your sneaky traitor legion. You get up to 2 additional Ophanim at 40 points each. So again,
interesting. It's interesting that they're the same price as the Sanguinary Guard, isn't it? Yeah, okay.
And you can give them jump packs, but they are 10 points a model. So 5 of them is going to be fucking expensive.
Really expensive, yeah.
But are they worth it, Rob?
Let's find out. Let's find out.
So they have the Blade of Judgment, which is strength +2, AP3, melee, 2-handed, rending 6 up, murder and strike 6 up.
Okay, I don't hate that. That's pretty similar in stats to the Dark Angels Tyrannic Greatsword. I mean, it's not rending 5 up, Murder Strike 5 up. That'd be nice, but that's not bad. That's like basically the equivalent of a Galvorback like Cursed Talons, right? As well, like kind of similar to those in terms of stats.
Yeah. So Shadows of Judgment. Now this is a rule. While involved in a challenge with a model from any League only to start his faction, a model with this special rule gains a bonus +1 to their initiative, can re-roll failed to win rolls, and gains the rending 4-up special rule.
Okay, that's actually
Unreal.
really good. Yeah, wow. Okay, that's really, really good.
Bearing in mind you can re-roll failed. Let's say, for argument's sake, I suppose you're going to be wounding on 2s with a re-roll,
Yeah, yeah.
but still running 4-up and Murder Strike 6+. Not too shabby. But obviously, the way to get around this is to just pair them with Moritat.
That, you know what? I was literally just thinking that. I was like, my God, this is such a good option to go with a Morita. The problem you've got is that you just, because this is another HQ slot, you're just eating into your HQs. You know, you're just like, oh, I need my Praetor, my compulsory, whatever, maybe a Herald or something
Hey,
for
but
that
Rob,
lovely
perhaps
fear.
there's a way of getting around this all.
Oh, let's have a look.
Read the Burning Eyes, see if we can have a sneaky reach around.
Excellent.
A model with a special rule may never be the Warlord. An Ophanim Court may be selected as a retinue squad in the attachment that includes at least one
There
model
you go.
with both the Master Legion and Legion as a starting blood and special rule,
Interesting.
instead of as an HQ choice. So you can take a retinue, you can get around that, but it's got to have Master of the Legion and be an HQ, which obviously a Moritat does not have Master of the Legion.
No, he doesn't. No, but you could still put him with this unit. That would be fine. That's not an issue. It's only an apothecary you couldn't put with that unit. Interesting. Okay, so when I think we first looked at these together, I think I was like, well, I think we were like, nah, yeah, whatever. Not that good. Now that we've got the Sanguinary Guard to compare against them, I now think that actually these have got better. I think they're expensive, but I think that like I would struggle to know whether I would want to take the Ophanim Court or the Sanguinary Guard. I do like the Blade of Judgments, actually. I think they're a pretty good sword.
Oh, good. And in fact, the 3 attacks base is what I think is super cool.
Yeah.
Super cool. I like these guys. I think I would be sort because I don't remember having seen them. I think Stevie T's got some that he's done up, but I don't remember having seen any others. But I would be very tempted to run these with Twilight.
Wouldn't you? Yeah. Maybe it's just like the 5 guys kind of like hurts it a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
But and then they come down. They've got Warhawk. You can give them Warhawk jump packs, so they'd be, with Sanguinius, they would be +1 +1 weapon skill as well. Man, okay, yeah, the only reason I like these now is because we have the rules for Sanguinary Guard, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. So Inducti.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take you through these ones because it's going to be pretty straightforward.
Straightforward. Don't bother. See you later.
So they're basically the spoiler upgrades. And then we've done a whole kind of like show on them, but essentially the spoiler upgrades. You can't take like a artificer armor, can't take all the can't take a character with them, but they're getting the Revenant Legion. A unit that includes 1 or more models with this special rule may not make sweeping advances. In addition, if a unit that includes any models with this special rule wins a combat and all enemy units that it was locked in combat with fall back or entirely removed as casualties, then all models in a unit gain the Fear 1 special rule until the end of the battle. I don't know why. Yeah, it's interesting they start with like the negative, right? I wouldn't take this. This is.
Can I ask a question? When have you ever killed a unit entirely when you haven't swapped them?
I don't know.
No,
it's not often. I mean, you can kill a unit outright, but yeah.
The spoiler
a spoiler squad would never do. Could never do that. No. Yeah, that's a good point actually. The spoiler squads are quite reliant on
winning a combat round 2 and sweeping.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. It's interesting.
Yep.
Cool. Right. Yeah. Move on. Here we go. The daddy, Dominion Zephron.
Hey Rob, we were thinking, is there a guy out there who's a Moritat that has Master of the Legion to pair your Ophanim squad with?
This is the guy. This is the daddy. So interesting. Won this one. So basically, with the latest fact, I say latest, it's probably like a year old now. But basically, the Dominion in Zephon found it very difficult to go with any unit because he had better duty other than his particular
Destroyers.
Destroyer Squad, but also Angel's Tears. They've cleaned that up, so basically he can go with any unit now. That's absolutely brilliant because not only is he a Praetor essentially, but he's also got rad grenades. So all those mad combinations of things that we can do with rad grenades, with Strength 6 or whatever, he can just
Good.
go with that unit. So yeah, really, really nice. And
But he's
actually,
also got a really awesome story arc as well. Like
oh my
from
God,
your
yeah.
perspective, he's just so good.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
absolutely brilliant. Yeah. So the two main, well, a couple of novels with him in Master of Mankind, but also Eternity.
Pose of Eternity.
Yes, that's it. Yes.
He's just got,
So
and his
185 points. So we're getting towards a Primarch. He has a Weapon Skill 6, a BS 5, Wounds 3, Initiative 5, Leadership 10, and a 2 up. He comes with an awful
and
lot.
also 4 attack space as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, yeah. So he's basically just like a Mora Praetor. Yeah, he's kind of
Yeah,
like the equivalent. So he's got Artificer Armor, obviously. He's got the Spiritum Sanguis and Lament and Grief. I'll tell you what, I'll just go through those now. So the Spiritum Sanguis is sword. It's +1 strength. It's AP2. It's melee two-handed. It's got Reaping Blow 1 and Master Crafted as well. All of those are really great. Like there's not one of those rules that you wouldn't want. And then because of the rad grenades, he's going to be wounding most of the time on twos, kind of like twos anyway. So it doesn't double people out, but it would just help you to wound along with his normal rule. And then Lament and Grief, they're two separate weapons, both counting as Volkite weapons, with identical profiles. Okay. So does that mean that it's Lament and Grief?
so he just has 2 pistols.
But is it like pistol? So is he firing 6 times, or is he
Yeah,
firing? Okay, yeah, that's how I would read it as well because of the way that it's written. It's strength 10, strength. Sorry, range 10. Strength 10 would be lovely. Strength range 10, strength 5, AP 5, pistol 3, deflag, and blind. Oh my god! Oh my god! He got blind as well.
yeah.
Holy crap!
He's got
Okay.
all the war getting all the rules.
Jesus Christ, that's mental. Okay, blind your opponent before you go in as well. That's absolutely fantastic. So he comes with an Iron Halo, so he's now not only 2 up, he's super survivable with Iron Halo. He comes with all the grenades, including rag grenades and melter bombs as well. Don't even have to pay for that. And he's got a Legion Warhawk jump pack. Just for those rules alone, he's worth 185 points, but he's got even more rules.
Yeah,
So he's got all the rules you'd expect. Oh, here we go. Furious Charge. So that weapon, the Spiritum Sanguis, is now instant
strength 6 on the
death
charge.
on the first round of combat and when he charges as well. Absolutely brilliant. And it's AP2 and is at initiative. Um, he's got Bitter Duty, not so much of an issue anymore. Stubborn, so he's now Stubborn 10. Paragon of Restoration. So let's have a look at that rule. The Paragon of Restoration gives Dominion Zephon the Feel No Pain 5. Oh my god. Feel No Pain 5 at special rule. In addition, the first time in any battle the Dominion Zephon loses his last wound or otherwise removed from player's casualty, the controlling player must immediately roll a d6 on a roll of 4, but he means in play with a single wound remaining instead of being removed or destroyed. So he comes back to like Garvey or Loken, similar to that rule there.
Yeah, he's
And then
much better than Garfield.
yeah, so he as just like that, just as a character, not even your Waller, just as a character, he comes with some absolutely amazing stuff. And he can be your compulsory troops, compulsory HQ, and that would be amazing. But if he is taken as your warlord, he can basically take a destroyer assault squad as a command squad. They don't gain a banner, but they do gain chosen warriors. So each guy gains chosen warriors within that, which I think is nice. But I think that the Angel's Tears is
Still,
like just as good, if not better, than just normal destroyers because of the range of war gear. But yeah, actually, you're probably going to put Dominion Zephon with there are a whole host of other characters you could put him with, and
yeah.
he can do really well.
I want to put him with the just put him with the Phantom, and they are
Yeah,
just unstoppable.
absolutely unstoppable. Out of curiosity, can we just go back to the Perdition weapons, which is I know it's right really far back at the beginning of the show. So okay, so Blade of Perdition. So I'm looking for the plus. Oh, here we go. So if
Oh,
you put him
that's
just
good.
with normal Sanguinary Guard, the
Yeah,
Axe of Perdition then becomes
strength
instant
7.
death, and then the Maul of
That
Perdition
would, yeah, would become instant. They all become instant death on the charge.
on the charge. No,
No,
because it's because you
no,
need plus
it's
two,
supposed
plus
to
two.
be
Yeah,
charge.
yeah. So
Yeah,
and then the Maul of Perdition would become instant death as well. So
yeah.
if you kitted out Sanguinary Guard with loads of Axes of Perdition, you're going at issue 1, but all those attacks would be
But then
brutal
why would
2
you not?
A's.
If you then look at the Ophanim Court, for instance, their Blades of Judgment are strength 6, and they are
Yes,
murderous strike with rending, and they
rending.
all going at
Yes,
initiative.
yes. Oh my god, yeah. This is such a great combination, isn't it? Oh
Yeah,
my god. Yeah, yeah. Really, really good. Okay.
yep,
Yeah. Mm.
love
They
them.
are nice. Cool. Right, back to him. Yeah, that's it. And he's done. So great character, 185 points, absolutely
Yeah,
fine.
you can see him all over the place. I think he's almost an auto include.
Yeah.
If you're going to or playing a game where special characters are allowed, I think if you don't take Dominion Zeph on, you are a crazy person.
Yeah, he's so good.
He's
But
also a complete badass as well. He's
oh
just
my
so
god, total badass in the books, isn't he?
yeah,
Yeah.
well. It's a classic example of a character that is really well written in the lore and has rules to completely and utterly match how much of a
I heard
kingship.
interesting fact. Aaron Dempsey Bowden apparently based him on the Brad Pitt's character in Interview with a Vampire. You know, that kind of like remorseful kind of like vampire kind of whole thing,
Yeah,
very sad for himself, you know, kind of had a
I think
soul.
I think the only thing that's lacking is there's nothing in his rules that kind of gives away like the amount of augments that he's had. Because there's that whole story arc about him having loads and loads of issues meshing with his augmetics.
Oh, here we go.
Um,
Oh no, hang on. Paragon of Restoration. Here you go. Is stored in Zephon's body by the corporeal techno administrations of Arcanland. These intricate bionic enhancements can heal even the most grievous wounds. So that's the 5 up field pen, and then he can come
yeah,
back to
but
life again.
also I think personally, I think that he could do with being, and I know this is a bit counterintuitive, but I think he could do with being like Initiative 4, just to
Okay, yeah.
represent the fact he had loads of issues when he was like his like metal arms. Yeah, he had loads
Yeah.
of problems controlling his augmetics. So I think that would be a nice little twist, but
Yeah.
no one's going to turn. No one's going to want to go. Yes, I would like him to be
To be worse.
worse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Cool. Yeah, great character. Let's have a
brilliant.
look at
Like,
the next one. So chapter
another
master
total bad.
Railrun. So he looks quite slim on rules, but the rules that he's like Ferris Manor. So the rules that he does have are very, very good. So why don't you take us through chapter master Railrun?
Sure. So for starters, he's weapon skill 7, which is weapon skill 7, as we know, is just he's just amazing. Like
Yeah.
being +1 weapon skill higher than anyone that you're likely to come across is so good. He PS5 strength on top is 4, 3 wounds, initiative 5, 4 attacks, leadership 10, 2 up save. He's got artificer armor, the Encarmine Warblade, a combi flamer. What a thing! Bolt pistol and iron halo, flame crack grenades. He is relentless. He has Master Legion. He is Furious Charge 2. He has his own Warlord trait, which is the Arcane of Wisdom. So if Raudon selects the armor's warlord, his warlord trait must be maybe selected from the core warlord traits or from any legion specific warlord trait from any of the following legions.
It's all the loyalist ones, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So basically you can take any warlord trait. So obviously what does everyone give him? Solar
Sailor
Marshal.
Marshal. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it, isn't it? Yeah.
Which makes him weapon skill 8, right?
Yeah.
But does he need to be weapon skill 8? Is the question.
Not only does it make him weapon skill 8, but I believe it makes the whole unit +1 weapon skill. Yeah.
Yeah, it does, yeah. Fair. And he then has the Encarmine Warblade. So it's a power weapon, it's strength +1, AP2, melee, mastercrafted, shred, murderous strike, 5 up.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that you can build, because the thing is with this, because you've got access to any warlord trait, you could potentially build an army around him, or at
Yeah.
least build quite a sizable unit. So I think that like matching him with the Crimson Paladins is
Yeah.
good, because not only, as you said, they are mega survivable, but
Yeah.
they're mega
That's about
survivable
yeah.
and they're hard to hit as well in close
Yeah.
combat. So, and then they're hard to wound in close combat because of the shields. So it's going to be very hard to get them off an objective, and the fact that he can't be upgraded with a Warhawk jump pad, it makes sense that he goes with a punchy close combat unit. The other one that people kind of talk about quite a lot is Crownbreaker. So this is a Space Wars one. So the Warlord and all models in any unit he's joined gain the preferred enemy independent character special rule. Those models also gain the Feel No Pain 5+ special rule when locked in combat with one or more enemy models with the independent character rule, and then you gain an additional movement reaction. So like you could put him with a squad of veterans, for example, and then
Yeah,
they get preferred enemy, which is really nice, and then they get
yeah.
Feel No Pain 5.
They can benefit from a field paper and apothecary for 45 points. So
Yeah.
you can kind of really have your cake and eat it a little
Yeah.
bit.
And that's the other thing, isn't it? Yeah, you could
Like,
but you could build that around him. I'm sure,
yeah,
like there's the Heroes Never Die,
yeah,
White Scars one, which would just be if he does die, which would be massively useful. So yeah,
yeah. He's really, really, really useful. So he's so super versatile. He's pretty killy. Like he's strength on the charge, he's strength 7,
Mhm.
mastercrafted
Yeah.
weapon.
Fierce Charge 2 is really unusual, isn't it? Actually, yeah.
Yeah, really good.
Cool.
Really, really, really good. Okay. And then this man here, who's got an iconic piece of artwork, but
So
will
good.
we ever see a model for him? Is he
I think it's unlikely. I
going
think
to go away, do we think?
yes, I think he probably will.
Well,
Um,
should have him anyway.
I it's amazing how many special units and special characters Blood Angels have. They have a lot of love, don't they?
Yeah. As if
So,
they needed it. So, but then again, they've got such a big backstory, and they
yeah,
are
yeah.
the poster boy legions.
Cool. Okay, so Judicia, Asta Crone, last officer of the 94th Company, the Shroud Maker, and the Ghost of Safe. He's got quite a cool backstory, so definitely worth
Yeah, it's a
having a look at
spit
his
thread
details.
he's in, isn't it?
I can't remember if he's in a book, but he's like the fluff that's next to this profile. I think is worth checking out because it's pretty cool. So he has got two hand flamers, safe and shard axe. So the safe and shard axe is +1 strength, AP3 melee, rending 5 up, and Julius Edge. All of that is very respectable. He's got an iron halo, which is actually very good for a leadership 9 character. Frag crack and rad grenades. You can see kind of a theme going on with all these characters.
Mm.
He has Scout, which is Good. Counter attack. He's the Ghost of Safe, Virtue of Judgment, Bitter Duty, and Loyalist. So you can put him now with any unit that you want to. So the Ghost of Safe. The first time Judicar Astacron loses his last. This is already sounds very familiar. Loses his last wound. Roll on d6 on a 4-up. He's placed in reserves with a single wound remaining instead of being removed or destroyed. If he enters reserves on or after turn 4, then he may enter play automatically at the start of the control phase following turn. It's fluffy. I just don't know how useful that's going to be, really. It's not that useful that he just goes and then comes back on. You might be able to rescue him for a kill point if you're playing a kill point mission, but I just don't think it's that useful that he goes into reserve. And then the Virtue of Judgment. At the start of the battle, once both players have deployed their armies, including any units with the Infiltrator special rule, Judicar Astacron's controlling player may select D3 enemy units. These units are considered marked for judgment. Crone, Blood Angels Tears, Legion Destroyer Squads, or Mortalis Destroyer Squads with the Blood Angel special rule attachment that Crone is part of gain the Shred special rule when making attacks with the weapon with a flame type against units that are marked for judgment. So there's two things I want to say here. Number one is that you could build an army around this guy. This is not a warlord trait, and you could build, for example, Angel's Tears with heavy flamers. And that would be really nice because they then have shred. The problem is that Ilias and the assault grenade launchers are just better
Yeah.
than having this guy plus like shred. And also he is a whopping 155 points when you consider that
Right, so that's not half
well,
gone.
yeah, exactly. Like we have a 180 point Ralderon or a 185 point Dominion Zephon, and like the amount of stuff that they give to an army as a whole and just their unit is just insane. So I think that it's very unlikely that you would see this, but it's nice that the Virtue of Judgment isn't a warlord trait. It's just it's just yeah. I think the other thing that hurts this guy is that he doesn't have a Warhawk jump pack. So it's not like you can put him with the Angel's Tears,
Exactly.
and then give them Scout, which would be really nice, like in like move six, and then
Yep.
and then go do their thing.
Yeah.
I think that where I think this could be quite useful though is in games of Zone Mortalis. I think that's where it might be useful. So you've got a Scout, and then you can give Flamers those destroyers
But the fact of the matter
Flamers.
is,
I think that's
they don't gain shred, they gain plus one strength because they used to
mm,
gain shred, obviously, in some
yeah.
sides, but that's not true. They just gain plus one strength. So
Um,
that plus one
yeah.
strength for shred is pretty good. But you could put him, to be fair, you could put him with like a unit of Ophanim or something without jump
Yeah.
packs and then just scout them forward.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that would be massively useful. But again, I think in ZM, that's where he like really comes into his own. I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily sure you would want to take him over other characters.
No,
Um,
I think he is he's one of the lost, isn't he?
mm,
He's like a Keir Valen or
yes,
yeah. I was
yeah,
gonna say more, but he's just got a model now. So
yeah. It's one of
um,
the lost, the ones that, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I don't know. I think that Ilias is just so damn good on the Angel's Tears. I mean, that's the other problem, isn't it?
I can't. Sorry, well, you never take this clown, but there you go.
Yeah,
Got a cool face.
yeah. Cool face mask. Yeah, cool.
That's not, and
Right,
that's
let's have a look at a sample list. So do you want to run us through this sample list?
yes. This is one that producer Kerry wrote. We'll see how it goes. See if we can pick some holes in it, tell him where it's wrong. So it's a Day of Revelations list. It starts with obviously Dominion Zephon with a 7-man command squad, jump packs, 5 with dual lightning claws, 2 with power molds.
Yeah, I like that. The power mauls are great because
They
with
become
Dominion Zephyr, they
strategies.
become instant death. Yep, yep. I like that a lot.
My Death Guard veterans I'm looking at with power molds that have rad grenades.
Great shout. Yeah,
Yields. So more attack with 2 Inferno pistols. I
love that.
love.
Yeah.
Do you think? So we've got 2 units of 14 attack marines,
Hmm.
5 recon marines, nemesis bolts, and augury scanner, 16 assault marines, sergeant the melt pistol with lightning claw, 1 with a power sword, 2 units of 8 dawnbreakers with melt bombs, 9 angels tears with dual Varkite Spencers and melt bombs. There's a lot of melt bombs in there.
Mm.
5 angels tears with assault cannons, contenders Incandius times 2, and a Leviathan Dreadnought, 2 storm cannons, 2 assault cannons, and a Dreadnought drop.
Oh, mama. So what have you got? You've got Dominion Zephyr squad coming
Or
in.
should we read his notes first
Oh,
off?
sorry. Yeah, go for it. Sorry. Yeah.
Tactical Marines and Recon Marines deploy and largely try to hide, but are fearless thanks to the right of war. Recon Marines try and ping off augury scanners,
Yeah.
brackets, or to reduce intercept disordered. So turn 2, Deep Strike with Zeph on the command squad, Sword Marines, 2 to Dawnbreakers, 2 units of Angels Tears, 2 Incandius Dreadnoughts, and the Leviathan. More attack can join anyone who goes solo to chainfire pistols and not spend anyone charging. Bring the large assault marine unit down first, spread out to give the biggest landing zone possible. So yeah, so basically what Kerry's saying there is you basically base the subsequent deep strike units from the first deep strike units. Obviously, having a big unit with a big footprint means that
Yeah.
you've got the ability to either push units out or bring units
Yeah.
close.
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't really considered that. That's a really, really interesting point. Yeah, I mean, I must say, I think this really packs a punch. But what Kerry's done is he's put a ton of stuff in the deep strike. I do quite like though that
I
there
think
is
I
the
think you need to have a ton of stuff in the deep strike. To be honest,
yeah,
I think you need to have a big deep strike just because otherwise
yeah,
you give a lot of armies that can counter deep strike will a not be used to coming against a deep strike this big, or secondarily have enough ways of dealing with a medium sized threat. I think it needs to be a big threat.
yeah, yeah. I really like this, and also the anti-tank comes from the melter bombs, doesn't it? I mean, that's
Yeah,
the other thing to say about this, and the bit from the Legion, so the storm cannons. I mean, that can. I mean, I have problems with storm cannons just destroying AV-14 when I play against
especially
Tom.
especially Iron Warriors Leviathans.
Yeah, yeah, exactly that.
Just
I mean,
so
from my understanding, I think you can also buy a Dreadclaw drop pod for the dread, for the dread, which might be an interesting option because you've obviously got one more fast attack slot open to you.
Mhm.
So yeah, my temptation might be go for a Dreadclaw, and that can kind of move around afterwards. But yeah, I really like this list. I think if it were me, So sorry, I was just go back to the tax squads. I think the tax squads are quite important within the list because if you're scoring from turn one, you need
Mhm.
units on the board scoring from turn one. You don't want to just deploy your or have your scoring units in deep strike and then
Yeah.
hoping they'll come in later. So I think that's really good. So there's 5 scoring units in there in total in that 3 code list, which I think is a healthy amount. I've got to say, yeah, I really like this list. And yeah, I really like it. There's not much more I can say about it. I think it's good. Yeah,
I'd be tempted. The only thing I would potentially change is I drop some of the tactical marines and
Mhm.
squeeze in a couple of apothecaries.
Okay. Yeah, just make more survival. Yeah,
Yeah, and maybe I'd want a couple more Aegis tiers with the sword cannons. Just we talked about earlier, just 5 men. It doesn't. Yeah, it only takes 1 or 2 to really reduce their
yeah,
effectiveness.
that's interesting.
10 is overkill, both in terms of points and what they're capable of. So I'd want to squeeze a few more points out somewhere just
Mhm.
to give. Um, I'd want some apothecaries in there.
Yeah,
Um,
makes a lot of sense.
Even if just like, I mean, ideally you want 4. You want 2 in the Dawnbreakers, 1 in the Assault Marines, and 1 with Zephyr in the command squad.
Hmm.
Um, but I'll probably try and find some of those points from the Tank Marines.
Yeah,
Um,
interesting. Yeah,
and maybe
I
one of
think
them.
Kerry's point would be that you've got very little on the board though, so you need to have as many wounds as possible. I mean, you can
I
hide
do
stuff
agree.
away, but
I do agree, but let's be honest, like the Tactical Marines are doing nothing really apart from scoring.
hmm
And I think in the first turn you can get away with having 10, personally. But
yeah.
they're the only holes I pick. Other than that, I really like it.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know what I would also do if I was wanted to put Sanguinius or something in.
Yeah,
I'd just get rid of Dominion Zephon's command squad and
yeah.
then add in
Basically,
Sanguinius into the Assault Marine
yeah,
unit, and I still think that would be a really strong list.
I agree.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I like this list a lot. Lots of, and also the other thing I love about this is there is a lot of wounds to churn through. There's
Yeah,
no tanks, or there's one vehicle, which is the Dreadnought Drop Pod,
yeah.
but there is a lot of wounds to get
Like
through in
quite a
this army.
scoring units in there as well.
Yeah,
So, and 2 of them are like are able, well, 3 if you actually include the recon marines, are able to
yeah.
kind of well those backfield or kind of like no man's land objectives, which are quite hard.
Yeah, it's good. I quite like the fact that he's got recoins and he's sniping out characters. I think that's probably a really interesting philosophy. Like you could drop attack marine squad and add in another recon squad potentially,
Yeah,
if you wanted to kind of just go hell for leather on trying to get rid of those augury scanners.
yeah,
And actually the recon squads are good because they get +1 in terrain, +1 cover in terrain,
yeah,
and they've got skirmish, so you can put them 3 inches apart. So yeah, I definitely think that recons are probably a go-to for Blood Angels players as well, aren't they? Just to
yeah. I
try and
would
snipe
be
out.
inclined to agree.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool. Yeah, what an interesting show. Yeah, I mean, after all these shows, I always feel like I want to do the Legion. I must resist at all costs, but I have no doubt I'll start having a look at the Games Workshop website after this, after we finish
Discover everything's
recording.
out of stock and then move on with your life.
Yeah, exactly right. Cool. Well, we hope you guys have enjoyed the show, especially if you're looking to do Blood Angels and play Blood Angels, or you already play Blood Angels.
Mm.
As always, me and John are not, we are aficionados at some legions, but we are not experts at all legions. So if there's something that you glaringly obvious that you've missed or combinations that we've missed, then put them in the comments down below because,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
we've got
always,
loads of stuff. We'll have popped the majority up, so we really do rely on you to point out all of our failings and mistakes.
yes, yeah. And
It's not down to earth.
yeah, so yeah, and also combinations that maybe we haven't considered, even if it's allies or things like that, etc., etc.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so final thank you to our sponsors. So thanks to Dan over at Gator 3D Printing. Really superb quality sculpts and prints that he does. And so make sure you check him out. He's doing loads of lovely stuff, and he's just printed off some suzerain for me for a client, which are all printed absolutely beautifully. And next up, we have Kirton Games, a game store nearish to John that hosts lots of Heresy events, but absolutely amazing place to pick up all those bits and pieces you want on a Saturday
Yeah.
with your pre-orders, because these guys deliver on time and good value as well.
Check out Sacrus Mundus. They produce files for 3D printing for terrain. and as you can see in the pictures, it looks fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Really, really cool. So yeah, go check them out.
And our own group of Sanguinary Guard, our cohort protecting the Primarch, our Heresy Hammer Praetor tier patrons. We want to thank you to all our patrons that make and allow us to continue to make this show for you guys. But we want to say a particular thank you to our top tier patrons, our noble Ophion Court. For really supporting us, because
Yeah.
without you guys, this would really just not be
I've got
not
I've got
possible.
5 lights on at the moment, and they would all be off if it wasn't.
Quite right. So thank you to you guys. And if we haven't mentioned it really, only once briefly, but if you want to support us and like the show, then please, please, please make sure you check out our our Patreon. You can sign up for a 7-day trial and give all of the extra content a go from there, but it helps us to continue making heresy content, which we absolutely love doing for you guys. So yeah, please make
Especially
sure.
as we're not on the GW gravy train, so we have to buy everything, which is an absolute pain.
Yeah. Come on, G-Dubs, sort it out, mate.
Yeah.
Right, next one. Let's have a look. So, just a final few things from us. So, make sure you are tagging Heresy Hammer into all your Instagram posts, and then we shall select some in the community show once a month and show them off to you guys. If you've got this far and haven't subscribed, then please make sure you do. Of course, commenting, even if you just say, "Hey, really like this episode," or
Or
"Hey,
hey,
you got
oh,
this
that's
thing
wrong.
wrong."
Or hey, I don't know.
It fuels the algorithm and helps us to share our content more widely. And as we said, we started doing last month, we started doing a community show, and those have been really popular, actually, well received. But if you've got any list queries or anything you want us to have a look at on your behalf and have a
Questions,
discussion about,
correspondence.
questions, raw questions, anything like that, then send us an email at heresyhammer30k@gmail.com. Particularly lists, I'm always interested to see list discussions. So if you've got something there, then please do. And then finally, a final plug for our Patreon. For as little as £3 a month, you can support us. We have lots of other tiers, but if you are considering it and you haven't yet tried it and want to become part of our command squad,
Merchant.
our Sanguinary Guard,
Yeah.
then you can go give a look and sign up for a 7-day free trial on Patreon. And with that one, I'm going to say goodbye, and I hope you guys have a good one. And then we shall say goodbye to John as well. Goodbye, John.
I'll see you later.
All right, take care. Bye, guys.
Bye.